Thank you, Councillor Grenz. We're waiting, Councillor Grenz. We're waiting. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending. This is our public hearing section. The city of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territory, upon which we gather with gratitude. At this time, I'd like to call the public hearing for Monday, May 15th to order. I will call on now Ms. Weeks to read the public hearing report and rules of engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. So this public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act. Consider the proposed zoning and development amendment bylaw 2022 number 2000.139 and zoning and development amendment bylaw 2002 number 200140. At this public hearing, any person present who believes that his or her interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws shall be given an opportunity to be heard on the matters contained in the proposed bylaws. However, it is important that all who speak at this public hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaws, and it is Mayor's responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Those of you who wish to speak concerning this proposed bylaw should, at the appropriate time, commence your address to council and the public hearing by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaws. It should be noted this public hearing is being recorded and live streamed, and the recording will be posted to the website. The main function of council members is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaws with the individual citizens. Everyone who deems their interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. If you wish to provide a written submission to be included in the record of the public hearing, you must hand in the submission to the corporate officer, which is myself, prior to the close of that part of the public hearing dealing with the bylaw you are speaking to. Once that part of the public hearing has been adjourned, council is not able to receive any further information from the public on that matter. During a public hearing, people sometimes become enthusiastic or emotional. Regardless of whether you are in favor or oppose any particular application or argument, please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion. Restraint enables others whose views may or may not coincide with your own to exercise their right to express their views and enables all views expressed to be heard in a setting that is as impartial as possible. I will now introduce the first item on the agenda. So this afternoon, there are two items on the agenda: hard copies of the staff reports and related information respecting the subject amendment bylaws have been available for public examination online and at City Hall, located at 100 Judson Avenue East in the Parksville Civic and Technology Center since April 14th, 2023. So the first item on the agenda is zoning and development amendment bylaw 2022 number 2000.139. This proposes to rezone from the single family residential RS1 zone to the small lot residential SLR1 to facilitate a future residential subdivision in a small lot format at the properties located at 625 and 633 Pioneer Crescent, legally described as Lot 17, District Lot 3, Nanaimo District, Plan 6031. Which is 633 Pioneer Crescent, and Lot 18, District Lot 3, Nanaimo District, Plan 6031, which is 625 Pioneer Crescent. As of 4 p.m. on Friday, May 12th, 58 items of correspondence had been received in response to this application, with 47 clearly in opposition and 10 clearly in support. More correspondence, including a petition, has been distributed to council this morning, but has not yet been formally logged by and counted by staff, and some other emails have come in this morning as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Weeks. This is a public hearing and it will be conducted in a respectful manner. And I expect nothing less than respect from all of you towards your fellow citizens and to your council members and to the staff here. If there are any outbursts, as in clapping, cheering, or any other verbal comments when it's not your turn to speak, I will suspend the meeting and you will be removed from the forum. We have to have respect for the other people's feelings to be able to voice their concerns without fear of intimidation. It's the right thing to do. Please act respectfully and give us your opinion as you're here today, but respect those that may vary or differ than your own opinion. Thank you. I know I can get your full cooperation. So at this point now, I would like to invite anyone who would like to speak to come forward to the microphone and give their name and civic address for the record. Yes, thank you very much. I think it would be best if you formed somewhat of a lineup just along the side there. And so that when the one person is finished, then the next person can just follow through. Yeah, it's totally random. So here we go.
All right. I don't know if this thing, do I have to lean over like
You're
this?
on. Yeah,
Okay.
that's good. I can hear you quite loud and clear. Thank you.
Well, that's the most important. My name is Anita Roy, and I'm the owner of 641 Pioneer Crescent, which is adjacent to 633, I believe, where Warren used to live since 1956, but he's passed on. I have owned.
If I may interrupt, if I
Yeah.
could, Anita, do we not have the timer on? Sorry.
3 minutes apparently. Okay, well, I think I have 30 seconds.
Sorry, Anita.
If
Yeah.
you'd give me another 30, that would be good. Okay.
Okay, so you have 2 minutes. So. here you
Okay, I feel I should have 2 minutes and 30 seconds because I only spoke for 30, but I will try to keep it brief and concise. I'm a landlord and I have benefited from owning a property that's rented out, both in terms of equity, plus monthly, plus just having great people there. I do not want to see the kind of development that's being proposed because it does not meet a whole bunch of requirements that would make it a good investment. I particularly do not want to see those magnificent trees cut in the background because I see them as heritage trees. They are simply magnificent and I'm next to them. The other thing is that the kind of development that's being proposed is really just another suburban nightmare. It doesn't really show any kind of community mindedness. It doesn't maintain rain the way that porous ground surfaces could. And it just does not belong in that community, which is an old and friendly community. It is understandably a good investment that will net somebody millions of dollars. And I can totally understand the temptation to go and get those couple of $1 million. I'm assuming it's a couple, it could be more, it could be less, but it's attractive. Our neighborhood will change and that won't represent affordable housing. It'll create another factory type of living, which isn't suitable for that area. The other thing that I would like to say is that I have tenants, 5 units that's been grandfathered in, and they're all paying very low rental rates. And if this kind of thing continues, then they really won't be able to afford living anywhere else, because my property at some point would be wanted by somebody who wants to demolish it all and build something that creates quick cash profit. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Next.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, water issues, whether acknowledged or not, are paramount for all of us in Parksville. and not least as applied to this property. About water quantity, it seems evident that we're facing a long, hot, dry summer. No one should be surprised that we're running low on water. We've heard about this from Wayne Moorman, whose expertise must be respected. The April report from the AWS-ERWS, which is published in the city's website, shows already low water levels in the Arrowsmith Reservoir and a snow pillow at 820 millimeters, well below the minimum range of 1,000 millimeters. The large development project at Lee Road in French Creek is not unique. EPCOR, the water supplier in French Creek, has limited the provision of water to 20 units for that project. They have said they will not supply water to more units until another water source is found. Only 20 units can be built in that development. I urge Parksville's council, and I wish they were here to hear it, to set a moratorium on future rezoning and development until adequate water can be provided to our communities. About water quality, the property up for rezoning has absorbent soil. If it's developed as proposed, much of the surface will be buildings and pavement. Runoff will go into the nearby Englishman River. It will bear contamination from the increase in vehicle traffic inevitable, with a 5-fold increase in occupancy. Now note, the river's water levels will be down because of our drought condition. Its ability to dilute and carry away contamination will diminish. Fish stocks and other wildlife are threatened by this. We are threatened by this. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name is Janet Anchor. I live at 676 Turner Road, Parksville, BC. Got my glasses. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, just
Yeah.
lean a little forward into it,
Okay,
Janet.
sorry.
Thank
In 2013, the OCP showed changes to the designation of 15 areas in Parksville, and it's under the future land use as transitional neighborhoods. We weren't consulted about that or notified of that change, so that was quite surprising to us. I've driven around to see what the changes are, and 10 areas have been changed, and we are 2 of left of 5. And our area is unique because it sits on the Englishman River and the estuary. The city, as we know, has grown by 10% with thousands of units. The majority of our neighbors in this block are against the change in the rezoning, and they can't be here today because they're working or their kids are needed at home with them. We have a multiple variant of housing in our neighborhood that suits many people. And so who are we? We're families with young families, children, people with grandchildren. We're single, we're married, we're young and old. We are retired, we're employed, and work in many areas of this community. We're a diverse group of people, and we love our neighborhood and we want to stay, and I'm very proud of them. I have collected and handed in approximately 85 letters of opposition just from the neighborhood. Several drawings from children who are concerned about losing their homes and the trees in their neighborhood. I've collected almost 200 petition names. The OCP states and values that small city atmospheres, outstanding natural settings and ecological features. And yet you want to take down the trees in our neighborhood that support the river and the estuary and contribute to our community. Protection of the river and estuary cannot be underrated. The potential further impacts of development in this area will damage the well-being of the river, the estuary, the habitat, and our water courses. The OCP states protecting natural spaces and species diversity contributes to a healthier watershed and facilitates groundwater recharge. We also live in the Arrowsmith biosphere.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Sarah Primo, and I live at 674 Turner Road. My family and I recently moved to this neighborhood specifically because of its forested and natural character. I am a landscape architect and an ecologist with almost 20 years of experience in ecological design. I know very well the benefits of density, but this is not the right neighborhood for that density for two main reasons. For one, recent science in river hydrology and ecology has shown that the hyporheic zone, which is sometimes considered to be the liver of a river, can extend hundreds of meters upland from a river's banks. And it's critical for protecting water quality, restoring base flows, moderating temperatures, and providing habitat to the threatened fish populations that live in the river. So it's not a matter of simply protecting a 30-meter riparian setback, as is the current standard, in order to protect the health of the river. Current science is showing that it needs to be a much larger setback area with pervious soils and forested cover to help keep the water temperature and quality protected. And so this neighborhood may fall within that zone next to the Englishman River. And for that reason, I think we need to be very prudent and limit the amount of impervious surface and removal of vegetation cover in order to protect the health of the Englishman River, particularly during the summer flows when it's already low and temperatures can get warm. The second major point is that this neighborhood directly supports species at risk and the health of adjacent habitat refuges. In landscape ecology, the matrix is the neighborhood that is adjacent to a habitat refuge or habitat patch. And the matrix, the forest and the understory and the habitat elements directly increases the health of the adjacent habitat areas. So by removing the habitat components from this neighborhood for the sake of development, it would directly impact the ability for wildlife to thrive in the adjacent natural areas. I also think that density can be done properly, but as I said, this is not the neighborhood for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here. My name is Wayne Mormon. I live at 808 Mariner Way in Parksville. I'm a retired professional engineer, and my issue is water. Just to let you know that as of May the 3rd, the water in the reservoir was about 5 meters lower than the spillway. So you've got a lot of water to make up. I've just requested what the current wet water levels are, but I suspected they've risen a little bit with this hot weather, but I'm pretty sure the lake's not going to fill this year. So you're going to be in worse shape than last year. I guess the critical thing is going to be flow release from the reservoir this year in order to keep the river high. The forecast is for a hot, dry summer, drought conditions, and if it's starting out like it is now and it lasts, it's going to be a problem. So I'm concerned about how the flow is going to be released from the river. I have a graph here that the city has published that shows that river or the release from the river last year. It basically states, and this is on the public website, that you stopped providing river or lake water to the river on September 7th of 2022. And that's where the sharp drop off is here. This graph also indicates that it was last published on October 4th. So between September 22nd and October 4th, I know the reservoir was providing water, but the information that you're providing to the public has not been kept up to date. So I'm not really sure what the correct information is. The other thing is that there's a conditional operating license and a provisional operating rule. Those rules are still in effect. They have not been changed yet. The city is in the process of negotiating with the province and the feds, but there's no new information. The province told me the other day that you're still under the old operating rule, which says you have to maintain 1.6 cubic meters per second at the Orange Bridge. That is that's happening right now, and it probably happens. Got 2 minutes already?
Thanks, Wayne.
I'll come back.
Thanks.
Hi, you guys. You know me, I'm Karen Badel. I have a house at 617 Pioneer Crescent. We're next door to 625. I share a lot of the concerns that the speakers already have raised. I'll be back for those. The concerns I have directly impact our property. We have 6 mature trees that are on our property. They fall along the property line. There are 4 that are within about a foot of the property line. The largest one is 96, 98 inches in circumference. They're about 60, 80 feet tall. We've had that property for almost 15 years. When the lot next door, the house that was there was demolished. And I think that was about 10 or 12 years ago. So the concern I have is with the construction. Mature trees are at risk. They're at risk for the tree roots being damaged by either excavation and or materials being placed on them. This lot densification is going to have a huge impact because there'll be 3 houses that will butt up against our fence. There will be the other problem for the tree. I mean, these trees have not had to compete with anything. And the older the trees are, the more devastating it is. There is a lot of documentation about how when you start to cut the tree roots, it becomes lethal. These trees are really important to us. They provide a source for the birds, and they provide shade. So in the heat dome last year, was it last year, the year? We did not have any issues with the heat because our place was cool.
Thanks, Karen.
I'll be back.
Next, please.
Good afternoon. Sherry Dance, 201 Moss Avenue, Parksville. My concern with this development is water, like everybody else. The lack of water sustainability for the current population is a huge problem for our area. I've lived in Parksville since 2009. Not 1 year has gone by where water has not been an issue. So please don't tell me that it isn't. Arrowsmith Lake and Englishman River are already below what they typically should be. Last year, the lake was full until July, then it dramatically dropped. We have not had enough rain or low snow levels to fill the lake this year. Lack of water sustainability for the current population is a huge problem for our area. As populations rise, they cannot meet the needed demands. The Englishman River and local wells supply water to Parksville and the Noose areas. A study is planned to take place, I understand, but it'll take several years to resolve the problem. We're still in a drought. To sustain the salmonoid fish population needs healthy cold water and a well-oxygenated river flow. The fewer trees, the higher air temperatures, the warmer the river becomes. Fish cannot survive in those rising water temperatures. To sustain the fish population, we need to understand the scope of our water situation to maintain a healthy river. And just so we're all aware here, there were no fish last year. I was there every day, not one fish showed up. So that is a problem. Pardon me. The changes of this development will create street parking issues, small lot properties with little or no parking. Fire trucks cannot fit into these small lot housing areas. New buildings are not required to blend into the current character of the area and create permeability issues and stormwater off the drains. I'll be back.
Thanks, sir. Yes, next. And just to let you know that we'll receive first-time speakers before we go to the second round. So any more first-time speakers, just continue to line up.
Hello, my name is Sally Sones, and we're here again. And I'm here not to tell you about the water issue. You know the water is an issue, but I'm here to remind you that as a council, you were elected because Parksville was fed up to the teeth with all the development going on, with no planning. Now, I was very pleased to hear that there is a study going on headed by Belinda Woods on the water issue. So you do recognize that there is a water issue. I would suggest to you all that a moratorium be put on all new development until you get a decisive answer on, is there enough water here or not? Is the Englishman River a priority to preserve or not? Those have to be set before you allow any more development to go on. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Mike Mode. I'm at 676 Turner Road. I think everyone knows my position on what I consider the overdevelopment of Parksville. In the last couple of weeks, I've spoken with well over 100 people about the development here. And I'm going to say 90% of the people were not in favor of it. Some people were at the point where we've got to just stop development at the moment and take a close look at what we're doing. Others just didn't feel that it was the right thing for this heavily treated neighborhood. They feel it'll change the character of it, the rural feel to it. A lot of the people I talked to said, we bought here because of the neighborhood. It's not because of the house that we bought. And that I heard that over and over again from people. And if we get a development like the other small lot residential developments that are in Parksville, it'll dramatically change the neighborhood. Will one of these affect us? Not a whole lot, but it sets a precedent that the rest of the neighborhood will be shifted that way. I'd like to see if we can't find some sort of an organic solution to it. We know we need some housing, but do we need to take all the trees down and cover everything with concrete in order to achieve it? Can we not? This is a heritage neighborhood. Can we not do something like gravel driveways and lower density and try and work around the trees? The presentation that is before you shows that there's 9 trees involved on the lot. There's actually about 75 of them, and most of them will have to come down in order to achieve what they want to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Doug. Hi, my name is Kelly. I'm on 601 Pioneer. I bought a couple of years ago, bought a dump of an old house that was all drug addicts in it, and I completely restored it. I'm really proud of it. I bought that house because of that neighborhood, that estuary.
Could you lean it? Thank you.
Because of that neighborhood and that estuary, I agree 100% with everything everybody said before me. This is an amazing area. Like the wildlife is just out of control in our area. You got to see some of our neighbors' cameras. I would just hate to see this turn into a concrete village, what it looks like it's happening. And the water is such an issue. It's just ridiculous that we don't have a study before us before even talking about this. Thank you.
Skelly. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Vim Roloff. I live at 642 Turner Road. I agree with just about everything the people have said about this rezoning. I oppose the rezoning. What is the big issue for me, along with the trees? If we lose this habitat, we're going to lose our shade. We're going to lose all the owls. I walk that block twice a day generally. And at night I can hear all the owls in the big trees. I see daily, I see the raccoons running down to the estuary to go and do their feeding and stuff. They all going to lose their habitat with these well, this particular development. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, my name's Harry Blackmore, and I live at 229 Martindale. I'm a few doors away from the property. I noticed the infrastructure they needed to put in along Pioneer Crescent for the new Wendy's and that. And I believe that probably the infrastructure going along Martindale's probably going to have to be updated as well. That's the only concern that I think, as well as the sewer and all the rest of it. But the problem being, I think mainly is that if this one development goes through, it could start a snowball effect. And there could be other properties that I know of that are probably going to change. So I'm against the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other first-time speakers? Is there any other first-time speakers? Come to the podium, sir.
Hi, my name's Kelly Fobert. I live at 8202 Martindale Road. I am in favor of this development. I know that the trees that they're being talked about being cut down, most of them don't have to be cut down. The development design that I see on here, okay, that I got from city, shows that the pathways and the backyards of the proposed development doesn't touch the trees. And the one on that's at 211 Martindale, sorry. The one at on Pioneer, the development proposal that I've seen also shows that the houses are at least 30 feet away from the yards coming in. I don't see how all these trees are supposed to be cut down when there's no need for it. It saved the trees along the one fence line between the two properties on Pioneer. As for water, I talked to the city about water. And there has only been 2 times in the last 15 years, 16 years, that we've gone to a stage 4 drought level. Otherwise, we always go to stage 2 every year in May, turn it off in September. And there's never been other than last year, which was a drought year, have we had any problems with water? That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Michelle.
I'm short. Michelle Jones, 821 Sanderson Road. I'm here today just to talk a little bit about what some of the people have said. Yes, this area is designated in the OCP as transitional residential. It was changed in 2013. But before 2013, it was actually designated in the OCP for multifamily residential, which was a higher density than what it is now. So they reduced the density in 2013 on these properties. I'd also, there's been some comments that it doesn't fit with the neighborhood. And I looked at the densities that we're proposing on this property, and it's about 8 units per acre is what we're proposing on these properties. The Pioneer Gardens development in Parksville is about 6.5 to 7 units per acre. So very similar. Estuary Place is 7.5 units per acre, very similar. And the recently approved Shelley Road development is actually at 12 units per acre. So it is fitting in with the neighborhood as it redevelops. So that's one thing. Yes, there will be some trees removed. I mean, you have to remove trees. But prior to removing trees, we would have an arborist come in and inspect all the trees on the neighboring property to see what we can do and if we can save anything that does that. And we will protect the trees on the neighboring property as best we can. And then as far as the increase in the impervious areas, the storm drainage system that we are proposing for this property will actually capture all of the runoff from the impervious areas that are created on the roads, the driveways, the roofs, and will infiltrate it into the ground. So what we will do is capture it. We will create a drainage basin underground that will infiltrate the water into the ground and recharge the aquifer. You may actually get more recharge with our system than what you would get with the natural ground. So that's one of the things that I just wanted to point out. And that was it. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Next first-time speaker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Bruce Cownan, and along with my partner, Ronald, we are applying to rezone the property at 625, 633 Pioneer. We are not asking for a change in the OCP. The small lot application fits the OCP to the letter of the law. We're not asking for any variances in any way on this property. It strictly fits into the OCP. I'd like to clear the air on some people, things that I've heard in the neighborhood as I walked the neighborhood in the last week also and attended some meetings. I'm not trying to buy up the whole neighborhood and develop it. I'm not that guy. We've owned this property since 2006. We've rented it. And now the last house on the property will not be insured. I can't get insurance on it because of the aging condition of the house. And the last tenant moved out on her own, saved enough money while living there to buy her own place. So we're very happy. The water, to my mind, is everybody's issue, but we leave that to the city to figure out how we're going to get our water supplies. And I'm told at this point, it's not that big an issue related to these properties. Houses butting up to neighborhood properties. If you look at the layout that we've provided, we're trying everything we can to mitigate impacts on other people's property to the best we can, and the trees to the best we can. The least amount of trees coming out for the development. The development can have 6 large lots with carriage houses on right now. That would be 12 units, but that would mean more trees coming out. And that's not what we're about. We're trying to do the best we can. I've offered to work with the residents the best we can to make the development workable for everybody. So thank you for your time and your consideration. I hope you can base it on the merits of the OCP. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other first-time speakers? Any other first-time speakers? Any other first-time speakers? Hearing none, we'll move on to second-time speakers. Anyone who would like to speak forward now. Thank you.
I'm back. So just to go on the, back to the trees, the best we can. Those trees are the only mature trees we have on our property. Since we bought the property, we planted about 20 trees. We started putting them in about 10 years ago. And the amount of effort when it's hot and there is no shade, the amount of effort and the amount of water in order to keep them alive. When in the early years that we owned it, we had tenants, and in that time, we lost at least 5 trees because of lack of water. We've got trees that are suffering because they're just exposed incredibly to the amount of heat. When that property goes in next door, the amount of heat island effect once the trees go is also going to have another impact on us. It really is unbearable. If those trees, at the best that they can, if we lose those, that completely changes our whole living. The house is cool. If those shade goes away, it'll become a cooker. The trees that we planted 10 years ago, they've grown maybe a foot, maybe 2. So what will it be? Another 15, 20 years before we have something that creates additional shade? I mean, I've tried to plan for development, but you can't grow trees as fast as what we're cutting them down. The trees also help to slow down the water and help to absorb it in. There's a huge difference in temperature. It allows us to at least be outside in the heat because I can't take the heat. So I ask you to think about what this impact will be. Once that development is done, then what do the neighbors do with their patios? Do they put pavers down? Do they put concrete? Do they further cover that up because of the trees that are there? If you do that, you'll smother those roots.
Thank you. Next, Wayne.
Thank you again. My name is Wayne Mormon. I live at 808 Mariner Way in Parksville, BC. Conditional water license and provisional operating rule, they're still as they were in years past. They have not been changed yet. And the ministry, I know, is working with the city on that. But what are the new goalposts going to be? You don't know. I don't know at this point in time. You had a vulnerability study done on your wells. It was awarded last July. I just talked to the city today. You have not received the draft report yet. So here we are approaching a year before you're going to get some more information on your existing wells. I know in the past that you had some issues with them in declining water tables. I'm just wondering if that's the same that's happening now. So that's the vulnerability study. You've got an RFP out right now for a water supply and lake intake study, which I believe closes later this month. I'll tell you right now that by the time that study is completed, it's going to probably be a year from now. And what are those goalposts going to show? I believe that they're going to update the water flows, the rain flows, the snow flows, and things like that. And I'll bet you dollars that there's going to be a reduction in water availability from the river. I also heard from a reliable source about a conversation that was overheard between city employees. And one of the things that was recorded was that it was stated that 2 of the wells are doing okay. The rest of the wells are struggling. So, what is really happening with your wells? The other thing I'd like to note is that the water reports that are published, they're very good reports, but last October, when the river was supposed to be not being used, it says in October the wells were at 38% and the plant was being used at 62%. So once again, there's information that doesn't seem to be consistent with what I thought was supposed to be happening. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wayne.
Hello, me again. My name is Anita Roy, and I own 641 Pioneer Crescent, and I'm a landlady, I guess. So why don't talk about affordable housing? These units are certainly not affordable for most people. I've seen estimates of $700,000, $800,000, $900,000, and that's not affordable. The density is possible if we abandon the idea of 10 standalone houses. A row of 3 townhouses on each property, leaving the trees alone, so set back from there, would be far more affordable because construction costs would be lower. Of course, there'd be less density. So yeah, overall, somebody's not going to make as much money, but they'll make money because, money is nice to have, but maybe not that much, but maybe up here. So I strongly suggest looking at some other plan like townhouses. I also would like to say that I invite all of you to come and see my property at 641 Pioneer Crescent to see what a small footprint housing could look like. It's really cute. There's lots of shade. The houses are very small. They're cottages that were brought from Rathtrevor 50 years ago, but people live in them and they're paying $600-700 a month and they're happy with 350 square feet because you can do that if it's properly designed. Seniors, people on disability, single moms, single dads, they won't be able to afford these houses. And frankly, you can buy a lot of other stuff here for $900,000 that would suit a higher income middle class family. So I invite you to come and see this. I want you to know that money is not everything. I think we all know that deep down, but can we put it in practice that money is not everything? This is a profitable venture. I get it. I like money too, but there's a limit. Thank you.
Next.
I am reminded that I neglected to identify myself when I last spoke. Dr. Elizabeth Bredberg, 150 Corfield Street. Parksville lacks affordable housing. People of limited or modest means can't find homes that they can begin to afford. The proposed small lot residential subdivision does nothing to help them. I have heard 800,000 as a starting price. Unfortunately, even for those people who could afford to buy in this subdivision, it's not going to be a pleasant place to live. Why? The trees on the property will fall to make space for small lot residential units. This is not just about aesthetics. Trees aren't just a pretty face. Trees provide shade and other sources of cooling. If this property is built up and paved, it will become hotter. Trees could have helped offset this. Do any of us expect the weather to become cooler in the future? Trees reduce levels of carbon monoxide, and with them carbon dioxide and ozone. If the population of this area increases 5 or 6-fold, as I just heard, the amount of vehicle pollution will increase by at least that factor. Air quality will deteriorate when the trees are gone. The residents will be breathing hot and polluted air in the summer, polluted air in the winter. But let's be reasonable. It's just a small area. How much difference can it make? Quite a bit. As the trees in that area are removed, the surrounding vegetation will suffer. The remaining trees with their root systems will be deprived. The level of groundwater will be reduced. The surrounding area will lose more trees.
Thank you.
Janet Acker, 676 Turner Road. I'm going to talk about gentrification. I know it's just 1 or 2 lots, or it's another lot, but there's already a lot of pushing and bullying by developers and real estate people coming door to door, creating fear and greed, etc. So what's going to happen to us as each of those lots begin to sell, and that's the trees come down? It will push the current renters out that have affordable rents. It will increase our taxes. It will impact everyone, especially those on limited incomes. Where do you expect us to go? People bought here knowing that the property was RS1. We all have reasons for living here. We came here because it was unique, just as you guys chose to live where you choose. We have the right to choose to stay in our community the way it was, how we bought it. The OCP states that Parksville values the small city atmosphere. It states that general land uses for covering to preserve and enhance existing natural features. Areas protected that are natural environments, its ecosystems and biological diversity. Do you not say in the OCP that mature urban trees are akin to heritage features and an importance of our community? You do, it's right in the OCP. Tree canopies and urban forests and treed properties should remain intact into this neighborhood. It's an important ecosystem that is shared with the Englishman River and estuary. The tree preservation plays a vital role in providing much needed shade as climate rises and helps to keep the river cool for our fish. The established tree community plays an essential role to the river, the estuary, and contributes to the well-being of the whole community.
Thank you.
Sherry Dance, 201 Moss Avenue, Parksville. Continuing on with if this area gets developed, the changes that'll happen that are negative from our point of view is the neighborhood sits in an extremely sensitive biodiverse area. The provinces in the world right now are trying to protect areas like this. Recently, we just did that in another area in the city, as you all know. And thank you very much. Decision made above and along the Englishman River and estuary will have lasting effects. Once this stuff is done, it's done. There's no getting it back. And not every neighborhood should be considered a transitional neighborhood in order to densify for housing or commercial purposes. If one property is rezoned for small residential lots, it could create a domino effect, which I believe it already has. All you have to do is drive through this city. I think at election time, it was pretty clear that the people of this city are sick of the development going on here. It's starting to look like Nanaimo, not Parksville. When we moved here for green space because we love hiking in the woods. Slowly, it's all being eroded. Why? This was a beautiful little community. It's turning into not so beautiful. When you drive into the city, if you've never been here before, what indicates that we live right on the ocean? Anything? I don't see a darn thing that indicates that. It's a beautiful, beautiful community, or it could be. But all this building, this area right behind us, horrible. And I can tell you right now, I live on Moss Avenue. It is completely under construction right now. Noise, dust, awful. It's going to ruin our summer and probably most of our fall. We hate it. We didn't want it, but yet it's going on. And that's what's going to happen here. It is not pleasant to live under those circumstances. Thank you.
Mike Mode, 676 Turner Road. I'd like to talk a little bit about the stormwater and the runoff that we're getting. The modeling that was done by the engineering firm for this property assumed a impermeable surface of 55%. That's the size that the house can be on that lot. That's the maximum size that you can have on that each of those lots. So it doesn't account for the main driveway. It doesn't account for parking stalls, which are required. It doesn't account for sidewalks and patios. The picture that we were shown with the houses on the green spaces for this property looks really good. But if you take a look at the Parksville map and zone in on Parkside Crescent, Rainbow Way, or Tibula Crescent, I think it is, they'll show you what a small lot residential development looks like. And if there's anything green showing on the properties, it's probably a car in the driveway. They have paved patios, sidewalks, driveways. So the engineering study at 55% build out said that the exfiltration trench will mitigate. So that just means slow down, help. Doesn't take it out completely. The storm water running off. So that will have to go into a new storm system that they'll have to install. It's also reported that there'll be no more runoff after everything's built out than there is right now. Well, I can tell you no water runs off that property in the heaviest rain that we have. I live right next door to one of these types of properties, and 4 feet down, it's all sand. So the soil is very permeable there, but not if you cover it over with everything. So that's where our concern is with the surrounding trees. And again, one lot isn't going to change the world here, but we see it as a domino effect for sure.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Any other second time speakers? Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly, same address. She just reminded me about something that bugs me since I've, in the last year, watching Wendy's and soon to be Popeyes be the first thing you see entering our city. I know that was the last council because I believe I voted for all of you guys. So it just blew me away. I've lived in tourism my entire career. I've made my money off of wildlife, basically. I was able to retire at 55. This nature is what is business runs. Like, it's just the most golden thing we have is nature, and beautifying our town and making it so we come in, like she said, there's nothing representing there's an ocean. There's nothing. My friends came up, hadn't been here since last year, and they came up and they went, what the F? Wendy's? And now at my house at times when winds, I smell Wendy's. I listen to Wendy's. I'm like, who does that? I just can't even get over it. And sorry, it just drives me mad that the lack of foresight. Previous council, just please this council have some foresight for this area. It's the most beautiful, beautiful area. Vivian, thanks.
Any further second time speakers to the microphone, please? If it's to discuss about the public hearing, come forward and identify yourself, sir. Sorry, sir, I cannot hear you. Please approach the microphone. If you would come in and identify yourself, sir, and your.
Richard Ashmore, 601 Pioneer Crescent,
Thank you.
former resident. I've just been here for many years. That whole property area is sort of a dwelling of mine. Just over, the infringing areas, the old woman would like it to have been turned into a Bouchard Gardens when she passed. Sort of a thing. That was her dream anyways. And I think like if we have many talented gardeners, people in the area, we've already done so much damage. It's like the world is watching in this beautiful paradise. And if we took the time and effort to I don't know, we don't need to go in there and just develop. If you were to turn it into a garden little by little, it doesn't have to, I don't know. I watched the badgers get wiped out, the ducks are only just returning, the animals are just returning from the last devastation. It takes, I don't know, it would take 1,000 years to repair, but we do have a chance to make it into something beautiful. And, there's trees on there that you can't replace. If you chop it down, you've seen that movie. It's ugly. I'm not going to say much more. Like the fish have only just started returning. The sockeye came up last year and it was a huge run. Like if we start infringing on that or changing it, we've got bears in there that are happy. We don't need to shoot the bears. We don't have to kill our animals. I don't know. That's my take. It's a beautiful property and a chance. Something, a garden would bring a lot of people in and make about as much money as you're trying to create. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other second time speakers? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Harry Blackmore, 229 Martindale. I moved here about 2006. And the biggest thing that I found over the years was the town seemed like it was building 2 subdivisions every year, if not more. And I would just like to say that this used to be a tourist town. The traffic would vary summer through winter, and the traffic is just insane. But the thing is, we really don't have any industry here. And I think the main industry here now is house construction. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Any other second time speakers?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Bruce Cowden, 625, 633 Pioneer. So a couple more things we've heard today, and one is the 55% lot coverage. And I did distribute a package that's showing the lot coverage that we propose. We're not proposing a 55%. I've never said a 55% build out or coverage on the lots. So I don't know where these things come from. The lots are 3,500 to 4,500 square feet. We envision 1,200 square foot homes. Yes, there will be driveways. There's certain things as grass paved, permeable pavement, all kinds of different ways to get around absorbing the stormwater back into the ground. I don't know where the prices come from, the 700 to 900,000. We'll see what the market bears, but what is affordable these days? I don't know. Youngsters go out and buy $500,000 to $2.5 million homes. I don't know what's affordable or what they call attainable. Where they get their money from is kind of up to them. And to determine what's affordable for families, I'd like to see families in Parksville. Another comment was it's not compliant with the fire department, or it's hard for the fire department to get in there. I believe the fire department has signed off on this particular development. And one more thing I'd like to urge council to do. Before the provincial government mandates how you guys are going to zone, please follow your OCP and allow this type of zoning to go ahead. I don't see a huge domino effect in that neighborhood. As you heard from most of the residents here, doesn't sound like many of them are planning on selling anytime soon or developing. So please, before the government does it for you, let's act on our own OCP. Thank you.
Thank you. Second time speaker.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm Vim Roloff, 642 Turner Road. I've lived there for about 30 years, so I know the neighborhood quite well. The previous speaker mentioned a good reason he thought was good for passing this rezoning, and the fact that he couldn't get insurance on his home. Well, I happened to speak to the past tenant who lived in that house, and he can't get insurance because it was neglected. So that's not a real reason for rezoning a property. Just want to make that point clear. The other point he made was that he said it's zoned for 6 houses now, and it could have 6 carriage houses. Well, I'm willing to go for the 6 houses. I don't see people building carriage houses on those tiny little lots. So to make up the 12 he mentioned. So that's, to me, is not a valid reason. If you want to build 6 homes and it's zoned for that, I'll go for that, but not 10. Thank you.
Yep. Any more second time speakers? Any more second time speakers? Any more second time speakers? For the round of third time speakers, come to the mic.
I'm Janet, 676 Turner Road. 676, sorry. So we're talking about tree canopies and urban trees and shade and canopies and all the beautiful things our neighborhood has. And we are worried about the snowball effect. And it's easy to say it's only one lot now and it's one lot this side, but the trees are coming down. And you hear back and forth, it's happening of what's true and what's not true. We have seen what's happened in Parksville and it doesn't look good. So there's other reasons concerning rezoning, rezoning requests, is the hardscaping, the infrastructure, our medical care. We don't have doctors to encourage people to come here. We don't have water to give people. You need to look after us first. Housing issues are as complex as diverse. Please remember that the neighborhood is an important part of the water supply. It's part of our history of our community. It's important. It's connected to the river and estuary. It is a home to many adults and children who live there and all the wild things. We are not against housing opportunities that can fit into our neighborhood nicely. We are open to having a conversation with you so we can work together to have that happen so it blends nicely. You can't protect the natural environment and the ecosystems and the diversity by cutting down the trees down and increasing the density in the sense of the corner of Parksville. You have the opportunity. Please protect our unique neighborhood in the forest and the generations to come.
Yep. Next speaker for the third time.
Hi, it's Karen again at 617 Pioneer. I just wanted to touch on the lot size. The application is to rezone it. And once the rezoning is done, then, you know, the house that's proposed for that can change in size. I encourage you to go take a look at, take up Anita's offer and go look at 641. If you think about the size of the units that are actually on that property, you'll get a good idea of what the footprint looks like. Those are small units. When you think of those being twice or 3 times the size of that, that will give you a much better idea of what we're covering in terms of land. And with them being new houses, they're going to be having patios and walkways and additional things that will further impact that property. There is a unique group of people that live in that neighborhood. If you've gotten to know the people that live there, there's a lot of people who, if they have to leave there, I don't know where they're going to go. As Janet said earlier, we've got young people, old people, we've got families. Families who have bought there in the last 5 years, it's because the houses are older. They are affordable. They can buy within their means and then fix up slowly as they have money to do it. And that's what we all have done. We've all bought in there and spent a fair amount of money improving as we go. So I hope you'll take Anita's offer up, go and look and see what the small footprint looks like. Let's be progressive. Let's not follow bare land strata. Let's try and be creative and try and find affordable housing options. This is such a unique neighborhood that we do have the opportunity to do something that's different and that's more forward thinking. Thank you.
Next third time speaker, Wayne.
My last time here.
You're right.
I agree, I agree with one of the earlier speakers saying that there should be a moratorium placed on any further development in Parksville until you really know what's happening with the water system. Moratoriums have been in place in the past, the RDN and the city of Parksville, and I believe the town of Qualicum have done it in the past. I see Breakwaters now doing it because they're convinced that they don't have enough water and they're going to look into the study. I'm an engineer. I like science. I think what you need to do is determine for sure, with certainty, how much water you have. You know, we've got climate change happening. We had a drought last summer. We're going to have a drought this summer. You know, until you know the science, until professionals have told you what the water system is capable of providing in the SNAT, you're making decisions without proper information. And my concern is that you need to wait until you've got the water report on the wells, and you've got the water report on the river and the lake. And I know that's going to happen sometime later this month, but it's going to take probably a year, if not longer, before you get those reports that you can make good decisions on. As far as the province is concerned, they are negotiating with you folks as far as what the water supply limits will be. But until you know that, I mean, if you're assuming they're going to give you 1.6, I doubt that. You know, this summer is going to be another real test for the system. Are you going to be into a situation like they have in Seaside last year? I don't know. But until you have a good science to back your decisions, I think you're making the wrong choice. And I support a moratorium at this time until you get that information. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Mike?
Mike Mode, 676 Turner Road. I'd like to address two things that the owner of 625 just brought up. One was not knowing where the 55% figure comes from for build out, and that's the maximum build out that can be done under the small lot residential developments. Small lot residential development also lets them be a lot closer to the property lines and spaces between the houses. The other thing that I'd like to talk about is where the pricing comes from. And I looked at it in two different ways. One was in the proposal that was done to council stating that we'd have a 600 to 800% increase in tax revenue. So it's a simple matter of multiplying the current assessed value by 6 or 8 and dividing it by the number of units, 10 in this case. And you're looking anywhere from high 9s to 1.3, I think was what it came out to it. So the second way I looked at it was I looked at the other small lot residential developments, and most of them have homes that are 14, 16. I think there was one at 2,000 square feet, and that was because it was 2-story. So they do go as big a build out as they can. Those homes are assessed in the neighborhood of, I believe there was some in the high 7s, like 795 or something, going as high as was somewhere in the 9 range. Now you could say, well, the assessments were high in 2022. Yet two of the homes on Rainbow that were assessed below $900,000 sold, one in December, the other in January, and they each sold for over $1 million. So they sold about 25% over assessed value, as I remember when I did the calculations. So that's where those numbers are coming from. They're not something that was picked out of the air. Thank you.
Is there any other third-time speakers? All right. Okay. We'll be done.
Sherry Dance, 201 Moss Avenue. I would also like to echo the sentiments of the last speakers, requesting a moratorium on any more development permits being approved until the massive list of infrastructure concerns are addressed. And we're not just talking water, we're talking doctors, livable wage jobs, traffic, which is a huge issue that nobody has spoken about yet today. I can tell you in my area, with all the construction going on there, the traffic situation is ugly. I can tell you in Grieg Road, that whole area, traffic situation is bad. So nobody seems to have addressed that part of this whole thing. And just, we've had enough, okay? Slow down. That's all we're asking. Slow down on the development, start dealing with the infrastructure concerns, and we'll all be a happy little city. Thank you.
Is there any other third-time speakers? Yes, sir.
Just that,
Identify yourself again, please, sir.
Richard Ashmore, development on that land, there's the underground, there's aquifer. If you were to develop into that land, it would devastate the East Coast. I can't allow any more damage to the planet. It's my obligation to tell you that. You can develop so much more on the tracks, on the other side of the tracks. You've got permission to do as much as you want, and there's so much land there, and you're not even looking at it just because it's not on the ocean. But that's all I have to say. Like, there's other places you can destroy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other speakers for the third time? Yes, sir.
Mayor and Council, Bruce Condon, Pioneer Crescent. I just wanted to clarify one thing, that with the 6-lot subdivision, those lots would be in the 8,000 square foot. So they're not small lots. Those would be 8,000 square foot lots in the 6-lot subdivision, not tiny lots or small lots. Just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. For the third and final time, is there anyone to speak further on this issue? Is there anyone further who wishes to speak further on this issue? For the third and final time, is there anyone that speaks at this time further on this issue? Thank you. I'll ask for a motion from council to receive the correspondence as received, please. I have a motion moved by Councillor Gren, seconded by Councillor Wood. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask for a motion to terminate the public hearing for zoning and development amendment bylaw 2022 number 2000.139. I'm a mover or seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Grenz. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you so much. The public hearing is now terminated, and we'll take a 5-minute break before we go into the regular council meeting. Sorry, wait. Right. Okay. So I'm going to switch over. I thought you were finished, honest. I really did. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to ask if any council members needs a comfort break at this time for 5 minutes. I got to take a 5-minute comfort break for all, and then we'll get into Martindale. I was so excited.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. Let's reconvene if we could, please, the public hearing. I'll ask for the instructions from Ms. Weeks as to the latest one that we're discussing right now. Thank you.
Thank you. So the second item on the agenda is zoning and development amendment bylaw 2022, number 2000.140. The purpose of this is to rezone from the single family residential RS1 zone to the small lot residential SLR1 to facilitate a future residential subdivision in a small lot format at the property located at 211 Martindale Road, legally described as Lot 18, District Lot 3, Nanaimo District Plan 7127. So as of 4 p.m. on Friday, May the 12th, 47 items of correspondence have been received in response to this application, with 46 clearly in opposition and 1 clearly in support. More correspondence, including a petition, has been distributed to council earlier today, but has not yet been formally logged and counted by staff, but it will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weeks. We won't have to go through all the instructions because you're also well behaved. So let's just kick right into it if we could, please. If we could have a list, I'd like to invite anyone who would like to speak to come forward to the microphone and give their name and civic address for the record for this latest proposal. Please proceed now to the microphone.
Leslie Davidson, 202 Martindale Road, across the street.
Thank you.
Dear Mayor O'Brien, individual councillors and citizens of Parksville, please further consider rezoning of 211 Martindale Road, Parksville. I've been in this quiet, thriving Martindale community since 1968. We have experienced glimpses of political indoctrination since our full-time arrival in 2019. The likely removal of many, many trees across the street from us. Risks are 120 trees, predisposing them to wind, storm, and aquifer damage. Removing nature's very absorbent terrain with housing, driveways, and roadways will further damage our aquifer's opportunity to nourish trees and the natural environment. The plan Parksville, the document, the Plan Parksville, A Vision for Our Future 2013 contains section 5.2.2, transitional residential policies, but it's got number 9 in it. Quote, applications for new development shall give due consideration to the potential implications for stands of trees on adjacent lands that may be impacted by development on the site as a result of wind throw, root or limb damage, or drainage, for example. Nobody's been investigating that I'm aware of. I've attended what I can attend, learned what I can learn. Has the adjacent land study regarding impact on surrounding neighborhood trees and aquifers been completed? Will you publish it publicly for our information, please? We request a written reply to this policy number 9, that this due consideration to adjacent lands has or has not been done. Mayor O'Brien, individual councillors, and fellow citizens, please ensure we have considered potential transitional residential implications for neighboring trees and aquifer implications. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Is there another first-time speaker for this application?
Janet at 676 Turner Road. So people, this is our neighborhood. It's wooded, it's beautiful. This is what you're building. And that if our neighborhood goes to total rezoning, this is what it will look like.
Janet, if I could ask you to lean into your microphone a
Sorry.
little bit more. Yeah, they can't
Yeah.
hear you. Thank
And
you.
this is what our neighborhood will look like. It's not what we want. It's not what Parksville wants. It's not good for the city. Sorry. The OCP states that general land use policies when rezoning to preserve or enhance the natural features. We're talking about on 211 taking down 77 trees. We're not reporting in the reports anything smaller than 1.5. That's a big tree. We have 100-foot trees in the yard that faces your property lane and then onto our property. It will affect us too, just like Leslie has said. the wind will blow through there. Anytime there's a change in a tree being cut down or limbed, the wind changes and it's hard on the trees. All right. You can't just address one thing and not the other. I'm sorry, I can't talk.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Dear Mayor and Council, again, my name is Sarah Primo and I'm at 674 Turner Road. As I mentioned for the previous item on the agenda, we just recently moved to the neighborhood from Southern Ontario. We moved from a place that only had 4% tree cover remaining. And that was due to cumulative removal of tree cover for the sake of development. We specifically wanted to move into this neighborhood because it appeared to achieve a balance in terms of development and protection of natural systems. When we purchased the property, it was advertised as having redevelopment potential because of its designation in the OCP. We paid a premium for it. We purchased it for the lot, not for the house. It's only 830 square feet. And we purchased it for the property because of the mature trees and the natural systems that it's adjacent to, and to feel that we can contribute to protecting the character of the neighborhood and the ecological health of the adjacent habitats and the Englishman River by not developing it. Adding to the comment about the trees, our property has perhaps about 30 mature cedar trees, and cedar trees are very much at risk due to climate change, particularly if they're exposed, if they're individual trees or small groupings of trees. When they're in a group in a forested setting, the soil moisture is protected and they're buffered by each other. As soon as you start removing trees from that area, it will put the remaining exposed cedar trees in particular at risk. And so there will be even larger impacts beyond the property lines.
Thank you.
Mike Mode, 676 Turner Road. Everything that I've said about the previous rezoning applies here as well. These lots are several hundred meters apart. So there's nothing that's changed other than instead of allowing 55% coverage, they're allowed 45% coverage. It's one and the same. Sarah's talking about the trees. Her lot backs onto ours, or ours fronts onto you. I'm not sure. And we have one cedar tree that's been estimated to be 175 years old. And to lose a tree like that because we've taken down all the trees around it would be pretty sad. I'm concerned about the trees coming down on 211. How many of them they have to take down in the laneway that they're giving to the city in exchange for the use of for future development of the lane, what that does to all the trees that are in the undeveloped lane, and then what that does to the trees that are on my property. Because if the trees that are in the undeveloped lane become unhealthy, that's going to be an expense for the city to have them taken down before they become dangerous, because the homes are going to be built very close to it, and they're all going to be put at risk. I think other people who have gone home because of the long time that this has taken, and you'll see from their letters, they've got the same comments for both of these developments and their opposition to it. Just because everybody has left doesn't mean that we're okay with the second proposal here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Badel, 617 Pioneer. I am around the corner from this property, but again, this is in the area between Shelley and the river and Pioneer and the estuary. Where else in Parksville do we have a community that sits next to the river, next to the estuary? Can anybody tell us where the tipping point is? How much can we pave over? How many trees can we take down and still have a viable estuary and river? If we can't answer those questions, then we shouldn't be doing any development there that increases density and changes what's there until we can do that. There isn't a lot that we can offer in Parksville other than the city park and the estuary. And if you see how many people frequent the estuary, and I know that some of the people here are there on a regular basis, if we disrupt the groundwater and the groundwater gets replaced by seawater, how long will the trees survive in the estuary? We need to be having some foresight into what the long-term plans are and what we value. Again, I don't think that any of us are opposed to development. We understand that we need housing, but we need affordable housing, not this kind of thing, not this intensity, without understanding what we're putting at risk. So please consider that.
Next speaker for the first time.
Sherry Dance, 201 Moss Avenue, Parksville. I just want to go into a bit of the history of the neighborhood. The neighborhood is one of the oldest areas in Parksville. It was once referred to in the OCP as a historical area of Parksville, and many of the homes are from the 1940s. One home used to be the old Coombs Post Office. A few cabins were relocated there from Rathtrevor Beach, and a few summer cabins built on these properties still stand. The Hearst family owned much of the property on Turner Road and still have a family member living there. Property owners bought land there knowing it was zoned RS1. They chose to live there because it has a rural feel and with large mature trees, space for children to play, the ability to grow gardens, its privacy, proximity to the river and estuary, and the enjoyment of seeing the wildlife, etc. Most properties are heavily treed. Many of the trees are second growth firs, cedars, and aged to be 70 years or older. The lots are larger than the standard size and allow current owners to have small scale buildings that would be affordable to locally employed people. Most existing houses have a small footprint. For those who would like to provide additional space, it is an opportunity for owners to add small scale housing space. Sorry, my throat is going. For this to occur, there would need to be changes to the building bylaws of Parksville. Some property owners have secondary rentals that allow for more affordable rents. Many of the renters in the area work in the local service industry. The area hosts an eclectic mix of residents and dwellings. They include residents who work from home or in the community, younger residents with children who have moved into the neighborhood over the last few years, retired folks, some residents who have lived here 50 years or more, and renters. The diverse range of residents brings a unique mix of everything, which contributes or makes this a unique and healthy neighborhood. Thank you.
Hi, it's Kelly again, 601 Pioneer. I just want to put my voice to this property as well. I mean, this property is actually a stone's throw from, if you got a good arm, from the river. This one is almost even more concerning than the other one in my books, though both are a big concern. I agree, some development, totally. 3 houses on these properties, that's why I was told when I bought my house, I could subdivide, no problem, for not that I wanted to or ever had any idea. I was just curious what was happening in our neighborhood. So when I show up a year later, after I just spent a shitload of money on my house to get it all fixed and looking nice, to see the rest that we're about to do, possibly just throw 5 houses down everywhere with like no character. My house is character. Yeah, I just want to also reiterate just about everything I've heard from everybody that spoke before me on this issue. I concur with. Yeah, thank you again for listening to everybody here today, and I really appreciate everything you do for us. Thanks.
Thanks, Kelly. Next, first time speaker, please.
Good afternoon. Ian Donaldson, 901 Shorewood Drive, Parksville. Resident here, citizen of Canada, for dramatic effect, like all of us, citizens of the world. And I say that because I want to challenge you as our leaders, elected leaders here in Parksville, little Parksville, as part of what's happening in the world. A lot of what you're hearing about today, a lot of the issues are global in nature. You're hearing about heat domes, you're hearing about water shortages, drought. Look around you, we've had our province is half burnt up, Alberta's half on fire. These are the problems we're dealing with in the world. And what you do here in this room adds to those problems. That is the effect. You have a prime minister right now who is opened the floodgates on immigration. You have a premier who's pounding you to build more. And every time you build a new road, more concrete, build another home, another building, you're contributing to global warming. Nobody seems to get that. We're blaming everybody else. You are the front line. You are the people who make the decisions, whether we build and how we build. So I challenge you to develop a vision, get back to the community plan again if you need to at this time, because you've far outgrown what you've already heard and what you know to be the community plan today. The extraordinary building that's going on here in Parksville has made a major contribution to global warming in our little way, but we're not immune to it. We are not isolated anymore. Everything we do is measurable in terms of what we're adding to the global problem today. So I ask you to look at our little community in a bigger way, take a stand, do the right things for the world, because you're the guys now. You're the guys in little Parksville who are making key decisions. And somebody at your level needs to stand up and start looking out for the future. And I hope it's you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Hi, my name's Vim Roloff, 642 Turner Road. I really want to express my opposition to rezoning the lot on Martindale. Previous speaker covered just about every base I wanted to touch on, and that is global warming. And it affects all of us, and the trees are a major component of protecting us against the warming. If anybody ever doubts that, take a walk down Shelley Road, which is right in that neighborhood, and walk into the estuary on a hot day. The estuary is totally cool, refreshing, vibrant, you know, it's alive with the cool air. And then go not even 200 meters up the road in the hot blacktop and see the difference in the heat. And that is global warming in effect. We have 27 mature trees on our property, mainly fir trees. And if trees get logged or fell on that particular development, the wind is going to reach right into our yard, and these trees are going to be affected in their stability and how they can cope. So I hope everybody considers that. Thank you very much.
Any more first-time speakers? Any more first-time speakers? Any more first-time speakers? I'll call now for second-time speakers.
Leslie Davidson, 202 Martindale Road. Mr. Mayor O'Brien, individual councillors, and our citizens of Parksville. Please, again, I get to repeat, further consider rezoning of 211 Martindale Road, Parksville. I've already shared my concern for trees and for aquifer, the harm, the risk, and the impact rezoning risks on those two particular items. I've got 5 more. Did this same plan that I spoke of include the effects on the forested habitat survival? We have always shared with hawks, owls, eagles, hummingbirds, All the river birds and all of your backyard birds are in our yard every day. We also have bears, deer, frogs, cottontail rabbits, squirrels. These are our, I got stories to tell you, but these are our interactions every single day. We are on annual water restrictions. March, level 1. May 1st, level 2. And await the environmental needs update for level 3, etc. Do we have a water supply for all of the new homes that you want to facilitate? Is the city of Parksville trying to create only the community you want to see with no regard for the individuals who have been residents and supporters of our community for decades plus on Martindale Road, Parksville? In the gentrification of the east end of Parksville, is there a limit set on how many properties are going to be transitional residential with 5+ homes on what used to be one previous yard? Have you got a limit? Help. In the plans for further development, has a realistic and attainable consideration been made and verified for healthcare? Mayor O'Brien, individual councillors and citizens, forested habitat, water supply, community spirit, gentrification, and healthcare. Please look after us.
Thank you. Next, second time speaker, please.
Sarah Primo, 674 Turner. One comment I have is about the OCP designation. This obviously happened before we moved to the neighborhood, and my understanding is that a lot of neighbors who have lived in the neighborhood for a long time were not aware of when this particular neighborhood was designated. Under the OCP, it's referred to in one place as transitional residential, which is intended to be a buffer between lower density single-family homes and higher densities and mixed-use developments. In another reference, it refers to it as multi-unit and intensive residential, again, to provide a transition between commercial development and single-family areas. I'm genuinely confused about why this neighborhood is designated that way, because it is not adjacent to a single-family zone. It is the only single-family area. And the neighborhood directly to the west, which is closer to downtown and to the Island Highway sort of commercial area, is still maintained as a single family designation. In contrast, as I mentioned, because of its proximity, its presence within the hyporheic zone of the Englishman River and its proximity to the estuary and the habitat refuge that is there, it would make much more sense to redesignate this as a single family residential area with a conservation oriented development permit area status. The current development at Martindale that's being proposed is sort of a generic cookie cutter development that you could see anywhere, and it shows no sensitivity to its very sensitive ecological location, no attempt to maintain the dozens of mature trees on the property. So if anything, any development that happens within this area has to be done in a very different way to conventional development, recognizing its sensitive location.
Thank you.
Janet. I'm asking you not to approve rezoning for my neighborhood. Sorry, I'm asking for not.
Janet, I know who you are, but you still have to say.
676 Turner Road,
Thank
sorry.
you.
I'm asking you not to approve rezoning for this area until, and to ask for a memorandum until the water study has been completed and the wetland currently has been done, biodiversity protection that's coming up, infrastructure updates and meeting better standards, and climate change impacts. You have a responsibility to protect our community and the people who live here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Mode, 676 Turner Road. I talked to a number of people, as I told you before, in the residents in along Pioneer Crescent and in our neighborhood. I also had an opportunity to speak to a number of people who don't live in this city. Some were out and out tourists coming from Edmonton or Victoria, different places. Some were people from the RDN. One lady was from Bowser, and she gets her car fixed at OK Tire, because while it's being fixed, she can walk around the neighborhood there and be in the nature. It's cool walking in there. Someone talked about going down to the estuary to feel the effect. You'll know for sure from walking, when you go from the top of Turner Road to the bottom of Turner Road, it feels like it drops about 5 degrees because of the treed areas there. That also helps us in the wintertime, those trees, because the winds aren't blasting through to cool our houses off. Vim spoke about having trees taken down on 211 and affecting his trees. And I can tell you that it's absolutely true. There's probably five lots between us. When 211 was treed several years ago, we noticed a big change in the winds going through our yard and towards Vim. Vim wound up losing a lot of limbs and spiral cut, and we notice winds coming the other way now as well. So the trees that we take down in one area do affect another on it. I'd like to point out that the developer, the owner of this property, is not going to be developing it. He has it for sale. And I understand there's an offer to purchase if the zoning goes through. The owner of this property is not a resident of Parksville, which is similar with the last two properties that we're hearing about. And I don't think that we should have non-residents driving what's happening in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Are there any other second-time speakers to the microphone, please?
Hi, Karen Badel, 617 Pioneer Crescent. One of the things I haven't brought up yet in the previous session and now is about the papers, the research papers. If you start to look around on Google, you'll see that the Englishman River has been under study for decades and decades and decades. For the longest time, it's been a vulnerable, at-risk river and ecosystem. I don't understand why we're not doing more to protect this. If you go back and look at some of those old studies, you're reading through and it just feels, when you look at the date, you're like, oh, that was 20 years ago. We're still having these conversations. There has to be a point at which there won't be a discussion. It'll be too late. We'll have crossed that line. So again, let's think about what we value. Let's think about what this particular area is. It's the only area in Parksville next to the estuary, next to the river. 4 streets. It just makes no sense.
Thank you. Any other second-time speakers?
Sherry Dance, 201 Moss. Regarding this neighborhood, in the OCP, page 112, planned neighborhood states neighborhoods must be carefully planned to integrate natural features, tree retention, potential impacts on adjacent properties. I think that the tree bylaw here is pretty weak, and I think that could be worked on a little bit by you guys. Also, not sure if you're aware or not, there are toxic items on the land between 219 and 211 Martindale and the rear of 676 Turner Road. Property on 211 Martindale shares fence line with an old auto body shop. The owner at that time dumped oil, batteries, metal, garbage along the fence lines and laneway. The owner of 676 Turner Road, after he moved in, cleaned up some of it due to safety concerns, but no official remediation has taken place. Also, the OCP states that significant archaeological sites exist around the Englishman River estuary and many coastal sites throughout the city. The planned area contains many recorded archaeological sites and has the potential to contain more that have yet to be discovered or documented. The province protects these sites, whether they're known or unrecorded, through the Heritage Conservation Act. Also, some other negative impacts if this goes through. As you all know, there's limited or no health care for the current population of Parksville, increased stress on the ambulance services and regional hospitals. Police and fire protection, it's my understanding, if we grow anymore, we're going to need a second fire hall and a bigger police force. And who's going to pay for that? I'm guessing us. And my taxes already went up this year. So yeah, I'd like you to consider those things when considering this property. Thank you.
Are there any other second time speakers? Are there any other second time speakers? Is there any other second time speaker? Calling for third time speakers now to the microphone, please. Any third time speakers?
Thanks. Michelle Jones, 821 Sanderson Road. Just wanted to reiterate some of the points I made in my previous application, that this property is designated in the OCP for transitional residential. Prior OCP, it was designated as multifamily residential. So they've looked at that and it has been brought down. I want to, the density on this property will be 6.5 units per acre, which is essentially the same as Pioneer Gardens, which is established in this neighborhood probably for 40 or more years. They developed that property. Estuary Place and the 151 Shelley Road are both of higher density than this property. So we're not increasing the density in the neighborhood. It's just a redevelopment of the older properties. Someone mentioned the archaeological sites. We have checked with the archaeological branch. There are no known sites on this property or the Pioneer property. There is the chance find, in every property in the province has the chance find thing. So to throw that out there is, it's an issue. It's probably not an issue. There's no known sites in this area. As far as the water restrictions go, the city does a conservation plan for their water restrictions. That's why the water restrictions come in on the same day every year. It's for conservation. It's not necessarily because there's a shortage of water. The city and the regional district and the town of Quabbin Beach, everybody has the same water restrictions. So everybody knows what date to do this, this, and this, and this. It's not because there's a shortage of water. It's because we're conserving, which we should be. So just to say that. And we are also using the water infiltration system for the storm drainage on this site as well. So it's the same kind of system as what would be on the other site. Thank you.
Here, Michelle. Is there any other third time speakers?
Okay, once again, and I really not plan to do this. So Dr. Elizabeth Bredberg, 150 Corfield Street North. When I think of rezoning, I think of 3 R's. They are respectful, responsible, and representative. Respectful should in fact include consultation of all the people who are involved in an area. When I hear that we have consulted an archaeologist about archaeology, I want to know if we have consulted the First Nations, because I didn't hear any mention of that. Responsible. Do we have adequate services? Do we have adequate water? No. Representative. I have just heard that the 3 pieces of property are all up for sale by non-residents. Representative, please think of those 3 R's. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please, for the third time.
Hi, Kelly, 601 Pioneer Crescent again. Yeah, just the more we talk about it, the more stuff comes to mind today. I'm not prepared either. Just was talking about, do we have the resources? I'm one of the ambassadors at Urgent Care. I got into that just because of COVID and I was helping out. I saw the Island Health needed help, so I jumped in to help out. My parents live on Turner as well, 625 Turner. Well, my mom now. So I've been in the neighborhood longer than since I bought. I've been around for a while. At Urgent Care, I greet everybody that comes in that building. And it is unimaginable how many people do not have doctors in here. My doctor, I moved away from the island. I grew up here on the island. I moved away for 20 years. I left Nelson 15 years ago. My doctor's still in Nelson. I can't get one here. I don't know how all these new people are going to get one because my doctor is trying to fire me in Nelson because it's not really, she shouldn't be looking after me still 15 years after I moved out of my town. So there's a huge problem here for urgent care. I hear it. I greet people every day in tears, not having their doctor every single day. Dozens. It's really quite something. So it really is actually a concern that I just wanted to put my 2 bits in. Thanks.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, thanks for your service.
Any other third-time speakers?
Mike Moat, 676 Turner Road. I want to talk about the density and its similarities to Pioneer Gardens. I actually took the time to go on to BC Assessment and check out the size of the lots. I may have done it from the BC maps, actually. The majority of the lots in Pioneer Gardens are about twice the size of the majority of the lots that will be at 211. There's one lot at 211 that'll be almost twice as big as the other because the service road that will service those buildings doesn't go through that property, just up to it. So it is much more dense than what Pioneer Gardens is. I think if you take a look at Parksville map and blow it up and look at Pioneer Gardens, you'll see they have lots of green spaces in there, permeable spaces. Some of them have gravel rather than grass. If you look at the 3 small lot divisions that are out there, the Parkside, Rainbow, and Tibla, you'll see that there is a lot more density than what Pioneer Gardens is. I hope you guys take the time to read some of the letters that come in. There's a lot of things I put in mine that I haven't been able to fully elaborate here, but I'll give you what I think are some really important points. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Call for third-time speaker.
All right, well, I might as well go one more time. For this property, I'd like to remind you that Anita Roy has invited you to look at her property. If you go and take a look, it will give you an idea of what the size of properties look like in terms of green space and how it lays out. I think that is really quite telling. And then when you try to imagine that you're going to, I don't know, plant replacement trees or what have you, that will give you a really good visual because those lots are all the same size. And I just want to touch on infrastructure, and we should really be trying to take the lead of other communities, taking what we have as natural assets and incorporating those into our inventory. And then people have mentioned doctors. Well, I just got a text from a neighbor saying, can you help me find a doctor? I'm at urgent care. Can you send me that list that you think you found of doctors? So this is how we take care of people in our neighborhood. And when we have neighbors who have lived here for decades and don't have a doctor, and you think about the houses that we're going to create and who are coming here to buy those, probably not the people who are already here. We're inviting other people here. We're inviting people to now compete with people we already have here that we can't provide for. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other third-time speakers?
Sherry Dance, 201 Moss. If you look at the map of Parksville and you start from the dam at Arrowsmith Lake and you go down, you will see that this whole area is connected with the floodplains, part of the wetlands, and definitely green space. Again, this is why we moved here, for green space. We're not interested in living in a place that is full of concrete buildings. We moved here so we could walk the trails, so that we can enjoy the nature. It's also part of the wildlife corridor. What's going to happen to all that wildlife if you start taking the trees down? Where are they going to go? You're slowly taking away their habitat. When the mess on Despard got built, the amount of deer walking up and down my street with babies was heartbreaking. I don't want to see that again. This is not the vision that I had for this city, and this is not why we moved here. We're actually considering moving out of the city because of these reasons. I implore you, please, take a step back, consider all the comments that have been made here today, consider all the letters that have been written to you. Please, put a moratorium on developing any more land until you address all these infrastructure concerns. We need doctors. We need a bigger police force. We need ambulances. We need water. We want to keep our trees. Parksville. We're slowly losing all our parks. Why? For greed? For money? Really, we're going to sell our cute little city for money? It's disgusting. Please listen to the citizens that are paying the taxes here. We're not interested in bringing more people here. We want you to take care of the people that are already here. And there's a huge list of concerns. So it'd be nice to see some action on some of them, please. And thank you.
Sarah Primo, 674 Turner Road. I wasn't going to bring this up, but nobody else has mentioned it. So one critique that I have of the proposed development at 211 Martindale Road is that as I mentioned in my previous comment, the design is very sort of insensitive to the location and to the existing trees and ecological features. And the Sustainable Community Builder checklist that was included in the application shows that the applicant has made no effort to protect or retain any of the 33 large diameter trees on the property. The application scored 8 out of 25 for environmental protection and enhancement. The only points scored are for removing invasive species, which would occur if everything is removed anyway. Using stormwater exfiltration techniques, which is a good thing, but the temperature and the quality of that stormwater will be impacted because of the development adjacent to it. And some of the other points are for sustainable construction techniques, which are fairly standard in the building industry already. So I'm dismayed that the applicant has not sought to achieve a higher score under the using the existing tools that are available to them in applying for this rezoning. The development is also supposed to incorporate mature, healthy trees into the overall site design as a condition of the DPA, the development permit area. But again, no efforts being made to do that. So at a minimum, as I said, there are ways to redesign the site in a way that could carefully increase density in an ecologically sensitive and low impact way. Clustering housing, limiting impervious surfaces, retaining all of the existing mature trees, and incorporating on-site rainwater filtration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other third-time speakers? For the second time, are there any other third-time speakers? For the third call, is there any other third-time speakers? Thank you. I would like to ask for a motion to receive the correspondence. So moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Grenz. Is that correct? Councillor Beal? Her hand, I don't see it. Okay, Councillor Beal. Thank you. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. I would like to ask for a motion to terminate the public hearing for zoning and development amendment bylaw 2022 number 2000.140. Have a mover, please, Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Beal. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to advise to the public that once the public hearing is adjourned, council cannot entertain any further submissions or correspondence from the public on the proposed bylaws. I would like to, at this time, ask for a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Grenz. All those in favor? Yeah. Councillor Beal, I didn't see. Yes, thank you. All those in favor. Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you. Public hearing is now adjourned. Thank you. And we will convene right into our council meeting before we run out of light. Okay, yeah. Joel, where are you going? Yeah, I know. Yeah. Good afternoon. And welcome to the May 15th regular meeting of council. I would like to begin with an announcement, if I could, today for today's regular council meeting. To remind everyone about the It's Your City open house this Wednesday, May 17th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the community park. Activities will interest residents of all ages with demonstrations, displays, kids activities, cool equipment, and of course, a chance to explore and ask questions of our staff. Also present, not sure if it's a selling feature or not, members of council will be there. We'll have our own little booth and you can come and visit if you choose. We will be there as well. Parksville Fire Rescue, members of the Oceanside Detachment RCMP, Emergency Management Oceanside, and other community organizations will be there with displays ready to answer your questions. In addition, the city is excited to host 4 events at the Memorial Plaza in partnership with the Parksville Downtown Business Association called Dance With Me at Memorial. The first event on May 25th from 4 to 7 p.m. will feature line dancing. There will be music, dance instruction, food trucks, and a kids' corner with activities for little people as well. The Dance With Me at Memorial events will continue in June, July, and August. Thank you. This time I'd like to move for the consent agenda. Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation that the consent agenda approved include the following recommendations be approved: that the minutes of the council meeting held May 1st, 2023 be adopted, that the minutes of the special council meeting held May 8th, 2023 be adopted, and that the May 15th, 2023 council meeting agenda be approved. I have a mover or seconder for that? Good one. Moved by Councillor Geller. Seconded by Councillor Beal. Are there any errors or omissions? Or discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. I've got lots of paper here. I just want to make sure we don't do it twice. So we have two delegations that were planned to attend today. One of the delegations was the Parksville Lawn Bowling Association. They were unable to stay for the remainder of the meeting. They have left the information with staff regarding to discuss the lease renewal for the Stanford Avenue East property, and also an invitation to council and staff for an evening of lawn bowling. So the staff will have that information sent to your inboxes, so you have that information. I've lawn bowled, let me tell you, it's riveting. It is a lot of fun, and they're a great bunch of athletes and great members of our community. You will have a great time, I can guarantee you. So the delegation we have today is from the Regional District of Nanaimo, RDN, Liquid Waste Management Plan Amendment. A presentation by Duncan Taylor, Manager of the Engineering Services, to provide information about the RDN Liquid Waste Management Plan Amendment. Mr. Taylor, thank you for your patience. You didn't have to endure much to get to this stage, did you? Mr. Taylor, you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Almost as riveting as lawn bowling as liquid waste management. This will be a brief presentation just outlining our liquid waste management plan amendment that is in progress. So wastewater management is one of the key services provided by the RDN. The French Creek Pollution Control Center treats all the wastewater from the city of Parksville. It also treats wastewater from Qualicum Beach, French Creek, Surfside, and Pacific Shores. It treats wastewater from 29,000 people. It is both a primary and secondary treatment facility, and it produces Class A biosolids from the digested sludge from this plant and from the News Bay Pollution Control Center. These biosolids are then turned into a growing media at the Harmac pulp mill. The Liquid Waste Management Plan is the RDN's long-term, long-range plan to manage wastewater for the region. It establishes electoral approval to borrow funds for capital projects and was last amended in 2014. The RDN is amending this liquid waste management plan to continue protecting health and environment, to build on our previous liquid waste management plan successes, and to set action items to reflect current priorities. We're also updating the projects and timeline for projects in our 10-year capital plan and communicating new costs and borrowing required for these projects. The liquid waste management plan amendment is divided and organized into fact sheets. There's 6 of them outlined here. The details can be found of each of these fact sheets can be found on our website. Wastewater infrastructure and financial planning. Information on focus areas is available online on our website, and as with all the details of the 6 major capital projects that are planned for French Creek in the next 10 years. These projects are the expansion and odor control upgrade of the facility itself. Outfall replacements will be required in the future. We're looking at improving the digestion at the facility, which goes along with odor reduction and efficiency. We're going to need to replace some aging roofs over the clarifiers. The Bay Avenue Force main from the Bay Avenue pump station up towards the facility is getting on in life, and we expect we're going to need to do a replacement in coming up. And then headworks and sludge facility will require a capacity upgrade in the future as well. Based on this amendment to the liquid waste management plan, it will allow us to borrow $57 million for projects as required. We constantly are searching for grants. Any grants we receive will reduce this borrowing. Just as an illustration, what it means for homeowners. So an average parcel tax for the city of Parksville in 2023 is $431. It will mean an increase of $43 per parcel. Over a 10-year period, the increase is $387, and that will total an increase of, move it up to $818 in 2032. And this is just for illustration purposes. We are seeking community feedback. Community feedback is crucial to the success of the liquid waste management plan amendment. An amendment is approved by the province, and that authorizes the RDN to plan these projects and borrowing of funds in the future. There are several ways to get involved. May the 4th has already happened, an online primer. May the 23rd, an information session for French Creek. May 31st, there's another online information session. June the 3rd, we welcome you all to come out to an open house at the plant and to tour around. And there's a server that's open from now until June the 30th. All the feedback is collected, it's documented in the report, it's published on the project website and considered for the final liquid waste management plan amendment. The project website is on our Get Involved page, getinvolved.rdn.ca. It can be found through the RDN's main website, is the easiest way to go there. Just type RDN into Google and it's there. It outlines all of our projects that we have on the go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. And what was very obvious to me was the fact of how essential, obviously, your services that you provide. And also to alleviate concerns that we have of our residents of the exploding growth we have in the area, that the RDN, the Liquid Waste Management Association, have plans for future expansion, growth, and they're well prepared to take care of that. So for all the many of the criticism that we take for not having enough services of one point or the other, you can rest assured that this plan is on very solid ground, and RDN runs the system very effectively and it's with the future in mind. So with that, I'd like to say, is there any questions for Mr. Taylor while he's here? Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Mr. Taylor for the presentation. So this proposed expansion, is it projecting the growth in this Oceanside area for the next 10 years? Because we just do have a draft coming up for the regional growth strategy that is projecting growth up to 2040. So would this new expansion be looking into accommodating that growth up to 2040?
Through the mayor to Councillor, yes, it will.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Taylor? No, Mary? Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Taylor. I appreciate you taking the time to let us know a current update of it. And thank you so much. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
As mentioned, we had the delegation for the Lawn Bowling Association, correspondence in your box. We have one piece of correspondence to address at this particular time. There's a piece of correspondence from the Seaside Cruizers is in your agenda package. Request for financial assistance for the Father's Day event. Could I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation that the correspondence from the Seaside Cruisers dated April 27th, 2023 regarding a request for financial assistance for the Father's Day weekend event be received? Got a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Wood. You're going to be there. And seconded by Councillor Gore. Is there any discussion? Councillor Beal. Question. Or discussion? You may be still muted, Councillor Beal.
Yes, my apologies. I was muted.
We hear you now.
I'm not aware if is anyone in the audience there from the Seaside Cruisers, and yes or no?
There is not at this time.
Okay. I've just guess a comment, you know, much as I would, I know that many people in our city enjoy seeing the vintage cars and the like doing this. I am rather concerned at the late date of this request. It really doesn't give us much time to consider this. I'm not sure where the funds would come from. So I find that a bit frustrating. It would be nice to know what other sources of money they have for this. And I just feel like there are a number of questions and very little time to address this, but someone else on council may have a little more experience or background information than I do.
I can perhaps discuss that further, Councillor Beal. And I will take a certain amount of the lack of I guess brevity in bringing this forward to council. Unbeknownst to myself, it was sent to Mayor O'Brien instead of Mayor and Council, this correspondence. And it was just an oversight maybe on their part that they did this. And this happened right about the same time that I was running into some issues, as you're well aware of. I was unable to answer in a timely manner or to actually pass it, notice in fact, that this was actually should have gone to council as well. And it was after considerable time anyways that I did that, and actually through the assistance of our CAO was able to get that correspondence out and so forth when I realized that the timing was of the issue. I will take full blame for that. That is on me. It is not on the Seaside Cruisers. The other part of your question as to the background of it, I was on the last council as well, where we did this on an annual basis as well. The amount for the Seaside Cruisers was always based taking it from a contingency, from council contingency each year for $2,500. And it was done that on a regular basis. And we always said at the time, this should be a line item to be introduced anyway, so that we'll do it by contingency this year. Next year, let's make sure we have it as a line item, similar to what we do for the Brand Festival and other worthwhile organizations that bring so much benefit to our city. So that is where we'd like to go with it. That is where we'd like to go with it at this particular time. I can describe further their events if you like and their charitable contribution. If you have any further questions, I can do that as well. Councillor Beal. Yes.
I guess my concern is, my understanding is that we don't really have anything left in our contingency fund this year. But so I guess the question would be, do we in fact have sufficient funds in our contingency to assist this or any group that comes along with a request that we might like to honor?
I'll refer your request to the CAO, Councillor Beal.
Thank you. If I may, can you hear me okay, Councillor Beal?
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So typically we assign $25,000 each year to council contingency, but in the past, when council has approved more projects than that, it just shows up as being over that budget and we amend that by the amount in the final plan. So each fall, we bring an amended budget to do the actuals. And so it would just show up as being an overage for council contingency this year if council allocated the funds from this account.
Yes, follow up, Council Bill, go ahead.
I guess, do we know what kind of overage we have at this particular point? I'm not aware of this council having assigned funds from the contingency, given that we understood that there wasn't really money there.
If I may, through the mayor, so there's about, just off the top of my head, about 7,500 or 7,200 for the Phil St. Luke event. And then there is a $15,000 amount for the Parksville Lions workforce housing project to offset the cost of the rezoning and land development fees. Those are the two items I can think of off the top of my head. There might be some other smaller. Curling? Was there? There might have been some smaller incidentals, but we can provide that to council via email afterwards. But in the past, 1 or 2 times that I can think of for sure, council has gone over and we just adjust the amount at the end. And then other years, council is significantly lower. So I guess it kind of comes out depending on the requests that you receive throughout the year.
And just to reiterate, Councillor Beal, the CAO has mentioned that she will get that detailed information for you after the council meeting, and she'll have that sent to you. Yes, carry on. Follow up. Go, Councillor Beal.
As I stated, I would certainly like to see the event go ahead, much as I do think that eventually over time, such things as car parades might in fact, diminish in popularity. But this is a well-known event, Father's Day. Many people look forward to it. I would like to see it go forward and, and that we can support in some way. I'm happy to do that. That being said, I would actually like to meet with one or more members of the Seaside Cruizers so that I can better understand, or someone else might meet with them to better understand exactly why they need to come to council for this request. I do understand that some, especially traffic control, seems to have jumped up an enormous amount in just recent years, and it may have caught some groups by surprise. But I'm also well aware that other organizations have been able to get sponsorship from a number of local businesses and elsewhere, as well as grants, as charging a fee for entry, whatever it takes, so that they're not needing to come to council. I believe that, Mr. Mayor, you also mentioned that they give donations to charity, and I also donate to charity. I just don't think that it's necessarily the role of council to provide money to an organization that is then giving money to charity. I think, first of all, they should have established seed money so that they can move into next year's event in a solid footing and go from there. Now, with all that, though, I would certainly like to see us step up and assist them, given that it is this at such a late date, and we'd hate to see it canceled completely.
Thank you for your comment. Councillor Gore. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. So my understanding is this is an oceanside event, and Qualicum Beach is like the hub where it actually does happen. It's a 3-day event. It happens through Qualicum and then comes to Parksville, and they do fundraising in Qualicum. I'm not sure if the town of Qualicum does financially help them in this. It does mention that they have in the past, but I'm not sure if it's a practice of the other municipalities helping them. I've loved seeing those vintage cars. I would like this to continue, but again, same concerns as Councillor Beal was mentioning with the city providing funds and then those funds going towards charitable organizations.
Yes, and thank you, Councillor Gore. So I can elaborate on actually how their function works anyways. It's a 3-day work weekend that happens every year at Father's Day. The first function that happens is on Friday evening. They have what they call the cruise in, or the cruise, which happens in Parksville. It's down at the Parksville Community Park. And yes, they have a traffic circulation plan already in place. They're very good at it now, so they know what they're doing and they take care of that. So that happens on the Friday. On the Saturday, they have what they call the rod run, the poker run, where the individual car cruise members go on a poker run, all under the speed limit, all obeying every traffic law in town. And they have what they call a poker run, and that is also out of Parksville. They move it out of here. On the Sunday, on the show and shine, actually happens in the town of Qualicum Beach. The town of Qualicum Beach actually shuts down the entire town. Most Qualicum is not that big. Most streets in the downtown core is actually shut down, and they contribute heavily to it. As far as the Seaside Cruisers themselves, their memberships come from all over British Columbia for this event. It's world renowned. It's been on Oprah Winfrey. So their membership comes, and not only do they stay in all the tourist accommodations and so forth, but they spend a lot of money in the local food establishments as well. And as they say, and they do so in a wholesome activity, and provide a lot of entertainment, free entertainment for people to attend a car show at no charge to the public to attend car shows other than private events that usually would happen on the mainland, where you'd actually pay to see a lot of these vintage cars. So that gives you kind of an overseeing of the whole production. Or they have a Saturday night dance as well in Qualicum, a street dance. So all fun. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this just a motion to receive the correspondence?
Moving forward, yes, this is just a motion to receive the correspondence at this particular time. We just getting clarification from everybody, so they're comfortable in on the correspondence itself. After this, I will, providing we get approval to receive the correspondence, I will introduce a motion for consideration. Further to the motion on the floor to receive the correspondence, is there any other questions or discussion regarding that? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you, Council. At this time, I would like to introduce the following motion for council consideration, because it's we discussed it in a timely manner. That council approve a grant from council contingency for 2023 in the amount of $2,500 to the Seaside Cruizers Car Club for their Father's Day events in the Parksville Community Park. And that starting in 2024, the council add an annual budget line item of $2,500 to be provided to the Seaside Cruisers to support their annual cruise and poker run in Parksville and surrounding region. I'm moving that motion. Do I have a second for that? Seconded by Councillor Wood. I described pretty well exactly what it's all about. And I think with Councillor Beal anyways discussed what moving forward, so we don't have to go through contingency in the next ensuing years. So Councillor Wood, you seconded. Do you have anything further? Open for discussion. Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support the request for $2,500 from the contingency fund. However, I don't want to support this going as a line item at this point in time. It seems to me that we should see some sort of financials that are put forth. We ask much more of groups that are coming for grants and aid and a much smaller amount. So I'm just concerned that there's this lack of accountability. I have no doubt that the organization is very solid. They've been doing a wonderful job over the years, but I do feel that in my role as a counselor to do due diligence, that we should at the very least see some sort of financial records and have an opportunity to discuss you know, exactly what the needs for the money are. Now, maybe that's a given whenever we have a line item. I know that we have that arrangement with, for instance, the OCAC. Perhaps if you could ask our CAO, is that automatically assumed that it would be dependent on financial statements?
CAO is picking up the microphone now.
Thank you, through the mayor. Can you hear me, Councillor Beal?
Yes, thank you.
So it really does depend on the council direction. Some of our line items have been in place for a very long time, so I can't really speak to the process of how they got there. But typically, I would say our recommendations are that you would, as a council, see that financial information and the society membership. It has to be a registered society usually for us, which I believe this one would be, just because we do have a prohibition on assisting business. So I would suggest that that's something that we would need direction from council to advance it to a line item. I don't think it's an automatic thing.
Yes, and fair enough. Thank you, and thank you for that, Councilor Beal. I can assure you that the Seaside Cruisers would be more than happy to provide a full financial statement. I understand your concern, and I would be prepared at this time to amend the motion to just take the 2,500 for the contingency for this year and leave it at that. And then once we get that through and so forth, we'll ask for the Seaside Cruisers provide a financial statement moving forward for consideration for 2024.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Wood, would you accept that amendment? Thank you. Any other further questions at this time? Councillor Grant.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I haven't had a chance. This motion just came on the fly. So just generally as a principle, I've already stated my preference to not vote through financial support, but I guess, you know, on a sort of one-off basis like this, although I understand the emergency sort of situation here, I guess the question is this something that could be in future dealt with through our grants need program, which we just increased the funding for? So that would maybe cover up the future one. So if we could add an amendment, maybe that, you know, tweak the amendment maybe to give those options as part of the financial plan next year. And also maybe asking, speaking to the Seaside Cruisers about that piece of it. That's just the part that's confusing. Like, why would we sort of bypass a process that we have established already at council for? And what is the filter that we use for that? Is this a sponsorship or is it a grant and aid, or what? Maybe that's a question through to staff. I don't know.
Well, at this particular point, what, you know, how they apply for it, whether through grant and aid and so forth, that'll be determined after. The motion on the floor right now is just to pay out a contingency. I agree, you know, what is the process to get there? Then council would, or city staff would advise the CAO, or the CAO would advise the Seaside Cruisers what the process is. And then the Seaside Cruisers can either think, okay, well, maybe I can apply for grants and aid, or they can apply for a line item on the budget like other ones do as well. They would be advised of the process at that particular time, and, you know, then make those choices at that. So moving forward, yeah, which is, I think, is the right way to do it. Right.
Maybe a quick follow-up is it, just to clarify, would this be considered, maybe through you to staff, whether this would be considered a sponsorship, that Parksville would then be featured as a sponsor of the event? So to speak, yes, because there is sponsorship recognition. If you notice in the office, in the administration office, there's other plaques up there from the Seaside Cruisers in the past, acknowledging their sponsorship from the city of Parksville. Yes.
Any other questions or discussion? Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank Councillor Granz. I think it's even though it's a small amount, 2,500, it's got to be very prudent how we spend taxpayers' money. Since it's like a regional event with Qualicum Beach, I would like to take my time before deciding one way or the other line item or granting aid, but it's definitely not on the fly. So I totally support the amendment. Thank you.
Yep. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the amended motion? That is unanimous. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, you have so much patience, Chief Norris. We have a report from Fire Chief Norris. Could you please give us the background on the issue regarding the Parksville Volunteer Fire Department update, to provide an update on the Parksville Fire Department activities, including a summary of call volumes and incident statistics? Mr. Norris, Chief Norris.
Thank you, Mayor. Since I was going to be here today with a report on the agenda, I thought I would give you an update on where we're at for 2023 so far, in particular, looking at incidents. So a couple of things we'll skip over quickly. This is our calls for service over the last 10 or so years. You can see that last year we ended up at 651, and the trend line for incidents is moving up steadily. There's some examples of some things we were at the first quarter in our fire protection area here. That's a fire in a shopping cart, vehicle extrication, fire in a motel, and that's a landing zone for a medical evac from a accident. This slide, I did hand this out to you. It's a 3-year comparison for the first quarter. And I just noted in yellow there, some areas where we're seeing increases, significant increases in call volumes over previous years. So alarms, a lot of that has to do with construction. Beach fires, we're seeing increases in beach fires. Complaints regarding burning. So that is my neighbor's burning, or somebody is burning out on the street. All sorts of different things fall into that category. And then we're seeing a significant increases in medical responses and motor vehicle incidents. This is a little bit busy, but this shows the quarters from previous years where we have data, and you can see that the trend lines are all going up. Blue is quarter Q1 of this year, and last year we did 110 incidents in the first quarter, and this year we're at 159 already. One of the things overall is that we're just seeing big increases. So last year we increased almost 80 calls over the year before, and this year we've almost increased a significant portion of that just in the first quarter alone. To date, as of today, we're up over 70 calls over last year, and we're not even out of the second quarter. So significant increases there. 164 incidents so far. 164 incidents in the first quarter. 54 of those were duty officer only incidents, 38 were duty crew only incidents, and 72 of them were general dispatches. 129 of those incidents occurred in the city of Parksville, and 23 occurred in our contract areas, which is the local area, which includes Samparel and French Creek area. The rest were either automatic aid or road rescue calls. So in Arrington 9, Anus 2, and Coombs Hilliers 1. Typically those are structure fires, and in Arrington, 6 of them were road rescue incidents. We cover the highway, Highway 19, from the Englishman River Bridge to East Morningstar Creek, which is in the Arrington Fire Protection Area for road rescue. So that's auto extrication. And we've got a average muster time or shoot time, we call it, of 4 minutes, 24 seconds, which is how long it takes generally when a call comes in to muster a crew and depart the fire station. You can see our average response time throughout the fire protection area is 8 minutes, 32 seconds. However, I would remind everybody that we have a sort of long, narrow fire protection area. So if you're out at the outskirts, Craig Bay or Columbia Beach, that's more like a 12-minute response time. And compared to last year, our dollar losses are way down. Training, first quarter, 124 sessions, 57 subjects.
If I can ask you a question.
Sure.
On the last slide, I didn't know you were going to get into training already. You're talking about the incidents. How many of those are those just fire incidents? Like you break it down to like medical responses. Do you not? Was that a separate number that I missed when I was trying to look over my head there?
Sure. So I did hand this out to the counselors that are present here today. This, so medical responses in the first quarter of 2023, you can't quite see it up top, but these are the columns for 2023 here. And you can see that these three right here, 7, 10, and 29 are the major medical responses. I would also lump pedestrian struck into that. So you can see that there's over 40 there currently in the first quarter.
Sorry, that number again, Mark?
So medical ambulance assist,
right?
Medical ambulance delay, medical first responder, and pedestrian struck make up the majority of the medical incidents that we've done.
Those numbers are huge.
Yeah, they're over 20% of our total.
Right. Thank you.
And that's where we've seen some significant increases, notably overdose responses are some of the biggest ones.
And you get the call out as well as the paramedic on that. How does that system work? Are you the first call or the paramedics are first?
No, all these calls come from BC Ambulance.
Right.
And so we subscribe to what are called echo or purple calls in the medical dispatch system, which is the most severe type. So that would mean cardiac arrest or respiratory arrest. And that's what we're being dispatched to. The other ones there, ambulance delay means that there's no ambulance available for the next critical level of calls. So that might be a fall or somebody who is just pre-cardiac arrest or those sorts of things. Where the ambulance is delayed, remember that the ambulance travels back and forth to Nanaimo. And so quite often our ambulances are not here. They're somewhere between here and Nanaimo.
So this is a huge portion of your day.
It can be.
Right.
It's just dependent on the day.
I know, but it's not just fire and rescue. It's all this as well.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was just holding my question for the end, but if the chief prefers, may I ask the questions now? All right. So Chief, if you could tell us, what does it mean dollar loss and money saved? So is it about the structure loss that money has gone towards, and how are we able, like, what, can you explain it for us, please?
Sure. So typically it's calculated on insurance values. And so that's based on fire loss. And so this year we've had, that's only in the first quarter, and that's an estimate on the losses in a motel fire. So that's the only fire that we're showing dollar loss for on this report. We've since had a couple of other fires. And the total save goes towards what the property is valued at, both the contents and the structure. So training, 124 sessions, 57 subjects, 375 total session hours. That equates to 2,241 hours of staff time in the first quarter. Typically, we're doing around 10,000 hours a year of training between our on-call staff and our paid staff. You can see the instructor hours there, and it's just broken down into weekly training sessions, which would be our Monday, Tuesday, and Friday training sessions. Other in-house training sessions are things like driver training and other sessions that just happen whenever people are available. And then we contract quite a few training sessions also, things like live fire training, technical rope rescue, those sorts of things. Fire prevention, we have 827 inspectable occupancies. That is changing fairly regularly right now, increasing. Every time we have a construction of anything with commercial or multi-residential properties, we increase our inspectable occupancies increase. So in quarter 1, we did 121 annual inspections, 11 follow-ups, a couple of licensing inspections, construction walkthrough, lockbox consultation, and some fire safety plan reviews. We had 6 reportable fires that were investigated, 2 structures, a vehicle, and 3 outdoor fires. So we investigate them for fire cause, and then we have to do the reporting to the fire commissioner's office as per the fire. I want to say the Fire Services Act. And then we had some public education events where we spend quite a bit of time also. So we've had 6 events with about 90 people through this year so far. And then just some of the other activities that are taking up our time, occupational health and safety, human resources. We do a considerable amount of our own human resources, especially on the on-call side over at the fire station. Public inquiries regarding a whole host of things. We get a lot of questions about flares and disposing of fire extinguishers and other hazardous materials, old fuel. We deal with some complaints regarding fire hazards specifically. Mostly they're neighbor type complaints. Almost every major incident we do, motor vehicle accidents and fires, involves an FOI request, which admin can attest, I'm sure. And we have facility tours. So people quite regularly knock on the door at the fire station and ask if they can take a look around. Most are local. Some are from our tourists that are traveling through. Recruiting and retention, we have currently 48 members, 7 career staff, 41 on-call members, 1 special duty. And we have 2, we've had 2 retirements so far this year, total 11 years of service. And we have had, and we have 2 pending. So we have 2 members that have bought property out of district. 1 is moving to Victoria and 1 is moving into the Noose. And so they no longer will live in our fire protection area and are unable to participate. We had a successful recruiting campaign this year. 11 new people have been brought on this year, and 5 of them had previous experience, which is nice for us. A couple of examples of some things we're doing in the community. We supported the Wounded Warriors Run when it came through earlier this year. And you can see the little blue arrow pointing at Kirk. Firefighter Wolstenholme is was accepted onto the Tour de Rock team for the year. And some things on our work plan this year, some interesting, some not so interesting, but in progress, we have implementing the volunteer member benefits, the houses at 198 and 206 Jensen. We're in the middle of removing 1 house and demolishing the other. And some other things, update to the automatic aid agreement, and various other things. That's what we have on the go. Any other questions?
Thanks very much, Mark. Do we have any other questions for Chief Norris while he's here? Okay, thank you, Chief Norris. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendation of the report from the fire chief dated April 24th, 2023, entitled New Policy, City Employees as Volunteer On-Call Members? Is that the right one? Okay. Of the Parksville Volunteer Fire Department be received. The policy 9.27, city employees as volunteer on-call members of the Parksville Volunteer Fire. No, I don't think that's the right one. Okay. Yeah, it's previous. We don't have a, actually, okay. 4A, but I already have it here. Just an update on the, yeah, but I don't have any. Yeah, but I don't. But we don't have anything, is other just a report that we don't have any motions actually to put through on it. Yeah, that's all we have. So do we need to receive the update that CAO, the question to CAO, do we need to include the update as a item on our agenda as just presented by Chief Norris, or do we just move on to the next delegation or for the next issue, which is the volunteer?
If I may, through you, it's really up to council. This is a regular report that we receive from the fire chief, but it can't hurt to have a motion to receive if it just records that that has taken place, and it'll be on the minutes if you wish. It's on the agenda as an item.
Yeah, and I think it'd be important to acknowledge the fact, and we said Chief Norris did make his presentation today, so it's in the record.
Sure, we can do that.
Good. Do I have a mover or seconder to actually move the report as presented by Chief Norris today? Seconded by, or moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Gar. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Councillor Gore or Grams, I didn't see your hand up. Yeah. Got to hold up longer because I got to check the online too. That is unanimous. Thank you so much. Great. Now we get back to the one where it's trying to rush along. I have a tendency to do that today, aren't I? All right, Chief Norris, could you please give us the background on the issue regarding the new policy for city employees as volunteer on-call fire department members, council endorsement and establishment of a new city policy? Chief Norris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The draft policy presented to council today establishes that council endorses, encourages city staff who are also on-call volunteer members of the Parksville Fire Rescue Department to respond to emergencies during regular work hours, just as it would ask of other local employers who have staff members that are volunteer on-call members. Thereby, the city demonstrates a leadership role by supporting volunteer participation in the city's fire rescue service. And the recommendations are as per the agenda.
Are there any questions for Chief Norris regarding this? Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation that the report from the fire chief dated April 24th, 2023, entitled New Policy, City Employees as Volunteer On-Call Members of the Parksville Volunteer Fire Department be received? Part 3, that policy 9.27, City Employees as Volunteer On-Call Members of the Parksville Volunteer Fire Department be approved as presented, and the corporate policy manual be updated accordingly. A move it or a seconder for that, please. That would be moved by Councillor Gore, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Norris. Mr. Russell, Director of Community Planning and Building. Could you please give us a background on the issue regarding the consideration of a development permit and development variance permit at 249 Finholm Street North? Provide development cost charge activity details for 2022.
If Mayor and Council, for consideration this afternoon is a development variance permit and development permit for the Blanken Avenue portion of the property at 249 Finholm Street North. The property is this portion of the property, I should say, is currently zoned medium density residential RS2. The other side of the property is zoned small lot residential. As it is a multi-unit and intensive residential development, it is under development permit area number 4, where council will consider the architectural particulars and landscaping design. In order to approve the particular layout, development variance permit has been requested. This variance permit is intended to provide a more street interface type of design to replicate the single family small lot units further down the street, rather than being an internal facing sort of patio home development. So it's for those reasons, there's a number of variances listed with respect to the building setback. A similar variance was also granted further down the street, and the rest is detailed in the report with the recommendations per the agenda. At this time, we are seeking permission to proceed with notice for the development variance permit and the recommendations per the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Do I have a movement or a second or further recommendation? Part 1, that the report from the Director of Community Planning and Building dated May 9th, 2023, entitled Consideration of Proceeding with Notice for a Development Variance Permit and Consideration of a Development Permit to facilitate a patio home residential development on the Blanken Avenue portion of 249 Finholm Street North. Files 3090 PV P060 and 3060-PDP 135 be received. Part 2. That staff provide the required notice of council's intent to consider issuance of issuance of development variance permit number 23 PVP 060 to the owner of 249 Finholm Street North to facilitate a residential development. Part 3, that council defer consideration of development permit number 23 PDP 135 until final consideration of development variance permit number 23-PVP 060. Do I have a mover or a seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Gorin, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any discussion? Councillor Gorin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to Mr. Russell. If you could speak to a little bit about the driveway parameters that are the variance being requested. Would this in any way compromise the safety of the residents or the neighbors?
If I may, through to Mayor, through to Councilor Gore, there's no safety implications that the city is aware of as a result of the relaxations. It's really a product of the fact that if these were single family lots, the driveway spacing would be permitted. It's the fact that it's one large property that the variances are required. So there's no safety implications as a result.
Thank you, Councillor Beal.
Hello, sorry for the delay. I would just like to comment that I do really appreciate that an effort has been made here so that the houses along, I think it's Blanken, are in fact connected to the street and therefore more connected to the neighborhood. And in many cases that hasn't been done. Certainly in the past, you look at patio homes or others in strata and they're inward facing and there isn't that connection to the larger neighborhood. So I appreciate the work that has gone into this by the developer, Nigel Gray and Associates, to actually have them facing the street. I think that's great.
Any further questions? Councillor Grant.
Maybe just one quick comment through the mayor to council is that I appreciate the additionally, to build on what Councillor Beal said, the care and attention taken to the checklist. We've seen different proposals come through where the checklist is not really looked at very carefully. I find it personally helpful to look at that when I see that a proponent is taking the time to think through the items on the checklist and say whether or not they apply to the development and how they're addressing the values that the checklists are trying to capture. That's very much appreciated, and I would very much like it if that was the norm for all developers that were trying to do work here.
Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. And I see that Mr. Gray is in attendance here. So I want to say the same things that Councillor Grenz mentioned. I was quite pleased to see like some of the energy and water conservation measures. And this is the first time I was going over the file. So solar design considerations, green building techniques, drought resistant plants, we really like to see, this council really likes to see that an effort has been made to incorporate all these designs, rain gardens. So I really appreciate all these the stormwater management, infiltration. So I was very pleased to see those as well. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried unanimous. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Gray. The final report is from this morning's Committee of the Whole for endorsement of recommendations from that meeting. And so what I believe, did you all get a copy like Sarah passed it out in between? Okay, so it was basically the Committee of the Whole meetings that we discussed today. And this is when we bring into ratification anyways at the council meeting following. So the following report is from this morning's Committee of the Whole for endorsement and recommendation from that meeting. And forgive me, we'll have to go through each one of the sections because that's the way we do it. May 15th, Committee of the Whole meeting recommendations, strategic plan and corporate work plan. The council endorsement of the recommendation from the May 15th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meetings. So do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that the report from the Chief Administration Officer dated April 17th, 2023, entitled the Council Strategic Plan 2023 to 2026 be received. Part 2, the council endorse the attached 2023 to 2026 strategic plan for its term ending October 2026. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Gore, moved by. Councillor Wood, seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? That for the Chief Administration Officer regarding the corporate work plan, that the 2023 corporate work plan as distributed at the May 15th, 2023 meeting be amended as follows by deleting the following items. Number 1, Section A, item number 23, post-COVID patio program, on-site and public lands. Part 2, Section B, item 10, Island Health Collaboration on Sharps, possible operating guidelines and education outreach. Part 3, Section B, item 35, Community Park Stormwater Plan Implementation. 4, Section B, item 42, Marks Park Renewal. And further on to B by deferring the following projects. Number 1, Section A, item 14, Snow Policy Review Update and Operational Snow Ice Management. 2, Section A, item 15, Sidewalk Inspection Policy Review, Management and Tree Heaves. 3, Section A, Item 21, Community Park Circulation Plan. 4, Section B, Item 39, Electronic Timesheet Research Business Case for a New Payroll System. 5, Section B, Item 43, Community Park Capital Plan and Priorities, Washroom Signage and Safety. Part 6, Section B, Item 44, Rath Trevor Trail Design and Construction. 7, Section B, Item 45, ERWS Capital Plan. 7, Section B, Item 46, ERWS Operational Plan. Number 9, Section B, Item 47, Operation Yard Environmental Actions. Number 10, Section B, Item 51, Report to Council on Support for Beach Fest. Number 11, Section B, Item 60, Tree Management Bylaw Review. Do I have a mover and a seconder for those recommendations? Councillor Wood. Seconded by Councillor Grant. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that the 2023 corporate work plan as distributed at the May 15th, 2023 meeting be amended by deleting the following items from Section B? A, Item 5, affordable home ownership made easy. B, Item 28, co-op housing development support Alberni Highway. C, Item 30, PCTC parking lot conversion, scope and budget. D, Item 31, PCTC parking lot construction and project management. E, Item 54, proactive rezoning for affordable housing units in commercial and industrial units. F, Item 55, community amenity policy change, $1,200 per door. Establish a community amenity reserve to track separately. G, Item 56, proactive density increase per OCP for affordable housing. Move it in seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you for your enthusiasm, Councillor Wood. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that the 2023 corporate work plan as distributed at the May 15th, 2023 meeting be amended by deferring Item 7 from Section B? DCC review includes 20-year capital plan review to 2025. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Grant. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? I see you're opposed to Councillor Gar. Councillor Beal, I didn't see your hand up for either opposed or for. If you could just clarify, please. All right, can't hear you. Sorry.
Pardon me. I was trying to recall, I guess, I was trying to recall the final decision about that. It still just goes to 2025.
I've called the question, Councillor
Yeah,
Beal.
sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
are you in favor or opposed?
I'm opposed.
Thank you. Once again, those in favor were Counselor Grenz, Counselor Wood, Counselor O'Brien. Those opposed were Counselor Beal and Counselor Gore. Thank you. That carries. Moving on. There are three motions on the agenda today for, but I'm just going to back up a second as well to acknowledge how staff, after the committee of the whole, put all the information all together in time so that we could actually pass it through on today's council meeting, which was a huge momentous task, as you could tell by the way I was reading it, all the detail that was in it. So my absolute applaud to the staff for such a well done job in such a short period of time. Thank you. It was not easy, and I appreciate your effort. There are three motions on the agenda today for consideration. Appointment of council liaison to the Parksville Qualicum Beach Tourism Association. This motion has been placed on the agenda in lieu of notice, so council may vote on it at the regular meeting of May 15th today. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that Councillor Joel Grenz be appointed as a liaison to the Parksville Qualicum Beach Tourism Association for the period of May 15th to November 6th, 2023. I'm moving that so forth. I need a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Wood. Any discussion? Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, I do think that Councillor Grenz will be wonderful in that position. And I just like to say that being the community that we are, and tourism is so important. It really is an important organization to maintain a very close liaison with. And things can come up so that a counselor might not be able to regularly attend take care of their liaison appointments. So when that's the case, something like the Tourism Association, I think it's critical that we have someone who is able to regularly attend. And so I appreciate that, that if a shift needs to be made, I do think that Councillor Grenz will be an excellent candidate for that position.
Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Sorry, I didn't see.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Grenz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to make one quick comment and thank you for the motion and the opportunity to serve in this capacity. I just want to also thank my predecessor in this role for the diligent work done on this file in the past. So I hope to continue that.
I'll call the question again. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. We're going to have to change all those lists, Councillor Grenz. Oh, so much work. Pretty high maintenance, aren't you? Notice of motion. The second motion on the agenda for consideration today is regarding amendments to facilitate housing solutions for individuals requiring care in single-family residential settings. This motion has been placed on the agenda in lieu of notice, so council may vote on it at the May 15th regular meeting. Do I have a seconder for this recommendation, since I'm moving this motion? That the staff be directed to initiate the necessary changes to the city's regulations to facilitate housing solutions for individuals needing full-time care or assistance in single-family residential settings. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Wood. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Gore, go ahead, sir. I can do a background. Yeah, if I thought I had submitted that. So for what this is actually, it's a bit of housekeeping. So to speak anyways, to allow for the use of respite care given in the single family dwelling residential areas in the city of Parksville. They had been precluded from doing so up until this time. The director of planning has come up with a relatively simple amendment to the existing bylaws and so forth that will make this happen so that it does, that the people can operate the much needed service of respite care in the single family residential zones. You know, similar to what home-based businesses go for, you know, that are approved, but the home-based businesses were approved, but this was not approved. And it was like an oversight, obviously, but it's one that we're attempting to correct at this particular time. Yes, and so if you have further comment, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the council, I guess. So when you say cities regulations, we are referring to the zone uses within RS1 zones changes. Is that correct?
We get clarification from Director of Planning or our CAO.
Councillor Beal, can you hear me? Okay, thanks. Through the mayor. So there might be more than the zoning regulation because we're envisioning an application process for folks. So we might have to change our fees and charges bylaw to allow for the person to come to council to get the use approved. And so basically what it is, the mayor is correct. It's kind of an inconsistency between our zoning bylaw and the licensing provincially. So the use is allowed if somebody has, ironically, more people. Because they require licensing when there's more people. So if you think of an individual with disabilities or youth who need full-term care, if you have 3 or more people like that in one dwelling, you have to have a license, and that is permitted, or basically our zoning bylaw exempts that use. But if you only have 2 people, it's not permitted. So it's just a strange thing that our bylaw never envisioned. And so in order to allow people to provide respite care in the child or the youth's own community, we need to change our bylaw to be reflective of the current situation where it is more typical that it would be 1 child maybe in the upper floor of the home and 1 child in the lower floor, but there would actually be 3 staff usually because they need 24/7 care. So Blaine has proposed a suggestion where basically we would amend the home-based business regulations to allow for that additional staff person in this situation, but they would still require council approval on a one-off because they would actually have to enter into a housing agreement with us. So the legislation, the Local Government Act allows us to have council essentially approve that agreement, and that would give you as council the ability to address any particular concerns with that site-specific, whether it be the operator or the site itself. So it still provides any oversight of this being misused or kind of, you know, applied in a way that we didn't intend by the bylaw. So there's probably more than the zone that we have to amend, but we just don't know exactly yet till we go through and scope it. But we need the council motion to actually deploy staff to do that research.
You good, Council? Are your questions? Is there any further questions? Okay. I know. You got to bite those nails, just bite them. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Wood, notice a motion. Would you like to introduce your motion regarding? Pick it up.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the motion that Councillor Beal be approved by council to continue her role as chair for the reconsideration hearing for the property located at 1460 Seaway Drive. I don't think I need to provide any background because I think.
Do I have a seconder? We have seconded by Councillor Grams. Any further discussion, or do you need any further discussion?
Well, I just believe that Councillor Beal was chair when this file came up previously, and it just provides a little bit of continuity on the file.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Gore.
So just to get clarity, thank you, Mayor. Through to our CAO, have we received an application for reconsideration? Because I, as council, am not aware if we are reconsidering this.
Through the mayor, can everyone hear? Councillor Beal, can you hear? Thanks. I have to always check because I can't hear that this one's working. We have received a reconsideration that would come to council at a future date. And it was received within the time frame, but we can't predict exactly when they may come. So having continuity of the chair is probably efficient.
Thank you, Mayor. And so just to get clarification with when the council previously dealt with this file, no action was taken by the bylaw or the city?
If I may.
Yeah.
Sorry. So we did take action. It's an active enforcement file, but the applicant is entitled under the legislation to ask for reconsideration of council's decision. So that would come to council at a future date. And we anticipate that there may be conflict of interest for some folks on council. So having a designated chair provides certainty.
Any further questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you. Are there any other notices of motion? None. Liaison reports. We will move on to liaison reports, and in the interest of efficiency, I would ask the council members keep their updates concise. Would anyone like to share an update from the RDN Regional District of Nanaimo Board update? Anything to report, Councillor Wood? We're not going to twist your arm. Oh, sorry, Councillor Grant.
If Councillor Wood is not going to give an update, I'll give a very quick one, is that there are two, I think, key highlights that may be of interest to the community. One is that it was approved by the RDN board to proceed with the recommendation to the province to proceed with a governance study for Area F. And so that would be now moving to the next stage where the provincial government needs to approve, the minister needs to approve, moving on with doing that study or possible incorporation of a municipality in that area. The second item, which I'd like to bring to folks' attention, is the regional growth strategy is now out for community input. And this is the updated strategy that would set the RDN's vision for the next few decades out through 2040 around growth in our region. And so public is invited to have their say on this. So those are my two highlights.
Thank you, Councillor Granson. That is interesting about the Area F incorporation. It's been a long time coming. So it's taking along its next step. So I'm glad. Thank you for passing that information along. Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation that pursuant to section 91E of the community charter, the council proceed to a closed meeting to consider items regarding or relating to the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements? I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation. Councillor Wood, moved by, seconded by Councillor Beal. All those in favor? That would be unanimous. Thank you. So we are now going closed. Good afternoon and welcome to the May